Jordan Binnington. A great one on the ice for the Blues and a 5-1 win over the Toronto Maple Leafs, holding their opponent to a season-low 13 shots on goal. The Blues have won 4 in a row and for the moment are 4 points out of a playoff spot in a Western Conference playoff race.
Alongside Alex and T1, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. We had an open discussion before the show today. Do we lead with the Blues? They are now back into the playoff mix. It's impossible to ignore. Even the nerdy number sites has them at about a 15% chance to get into the postseason. Do we lead with the Cardinals, who went 2-1 over the first weekend of the season? J.J. Wetherholt had the walk-off. Jordan Walker finally showing signs of life. Was that more about the Rays or the Cardinals? We'll discuss. Do we lead with SLU? Because Josh Schertz had a public flirtation with NC State, had an interview with them, and then announced he will be staying at SLU, and it sounds like $10 million is going to be the new NIL fund for SLU. Or do we lead with the Final Four, which will include, for the first time, I think in T-Bone's real memory, the Illini, the team that he cheers for. And we also got an all-time finish to a game yesterday.
This is going to be a great show.
And Alex said we got to open with the Blues. And so here we are. We're opening with the Blues. Audio courtesy of the Blues Radio Network right here on 101 ESPN, where the Blues are back in action tonight against the Sharks in what is genuinely a massive game for your St. Louis Blues. Alex, I'm going to pull a Bill Raftery for you. I'm going to lay out. You explain to me why you were so on board. The Blues are the lead because you believe they're a playoff team again.
Yeah, they're a different team. They're a completely different team than what we've seen in the first portion of this season. And they've got the same players, but the style or the way that they're playing is completely different. So, yeah, I'm back on board with this team being in the playoffs because the team that they're chasing, Nashville, has lost 3 in a row. The teams that are in front of them, the Kings, have lost 7 of their last 10. The Kraken have lost 8 of their last 10. The Jets are playing 500, and the Sharks, come on. You're in this now. Because you have been the best team in the National Hockey League in terms of point percentage since the Olympic break. Your goaltending has been dynamic. You've got guys that look like they're budding stars, and you've changed the perception of your team. Their second period was the worst period this season. They were a minus 19 at the Olympic break. Worst team in the NHL. They're now a plus 12, which is second best in the National Hockey League behind Dallas.
This team's so stupid.
They're very stupid. Their offensive number 1 line, because of what they did on Saturday night, they are now a plus 49 since the Olympic break. A plus 49. Their defense, their defenseman, the only guy that isn't a plus in terms of plus-minus rating is a guy that's not even on this team anymore since the Olympic break, and Justin Falk. That means Justin Hall is a plus 5 on this damn team. So why am I on board and why do I think this is the biggest story? Because the path is right in front of them now. They have this stretch. I said this on postgame Saturday night. It's just nice to have meaningful hockey back. Yep. We haven't had it in a long time. And like the next 2 games are probably the biggest games the Blues are going to play all season. Taking on San Jose, who they will leapfrog over, where San Jose will still have a game in hand, and then the LA Kings on Wednesday. And if Seattle loses to the Edmonton Oilers, I think they play on Tuesday night, and the Blues take care of their business, they're going to be the wild card team. They're going to be sitting in that wild card spot. And they have done this, in my opinion, a completely different way than what they did last year in that Olympic push, but they put themselves in the same position to do the impossible in terms of 14 points out at the Olympic break, and now you are 4 points away from being in it.
I'm still not going to bet on them to do it. Like, I would bet against them still, and it's because, one, they have the hardest remaining schedule of any of these teams that are competing for this final wild card spot. They've got a really difficult remaining schedule, all things considered, for a team that plays in the West the rest of the way. But if you were going to make the case for them, it's pretty simple to do so. These other teams are mediocre to bad. Now, the Blues might also be mediocre to bad. If that's your belief in them, like, you don't think they're going to be able to do it because they're going to need to win 80% of the games remaining. I think at a minimum.
I think I said, doing the math, you got to get to 88 points, which is a 7-2-1 record the rest of the way.
Yeah, something like that.
15 points is what you need, however you get it.
So you have to go on an absolute tear the rest of the way. And That's not going to be easy. You can't have the slip up at the end of the season the way that you did a year ago because you don't even have that much margin for error. This has to be a sustained, you dominate from now until the end of the regular season, and everybody around you falls back a little bit. Now, you've already done a lot of the hard work because of how great you have been since the Olympic break. And all these other teams have done a lot of the hard work too because of how bad they've been since the Olympic break, and they've left this opening there for you. We talked about this at the beginning of the season, Alex. We got to Thanksgiving. I was like, man, Blues aren't playing well, but neither is anybody else, so at least they're still in it. That's the reality of the Western Conference this season. And I look at these other teams like, dude, Nashville fired their GM. They were so bad that they fired their GM. Vegas, they are currently 3rd in the Pacific. They just fired their coach over the weekend. So it's not as if these other teams are overly optimistic about their current outlook either. So to me, this is all about the Blues. If you think they can continue to play the way that they have since the Olympic break, yeah, man, believe in them all you want, because these other teams, they're not going to do a whole lot to inspire you, so at least the Blues can.
I think why it's belief is because I look at those other teams and say, well, what's going to carry them to the playoffs? Like, look at Nashville. What's going to carry Nashville to a playoff berth? Their superstar status? Well, those superstars have underperformed all season for them. What's the LA Kings have that will carry them to the playoffs? I mean, they're a minus 27 goal differential, which I know isn't saying much about the Blues, but the Blues are a minus 59 goal differential at the start of the Olympic break.
This is what's hard is like, I could say these for any of these teams, and I could have the exact same counter about the Blues.
And I think the Blues have done it better than all of those teams. Like defensively,
for 3 weeks.
3 weeks is fine, but they still did it for 3 weeks. Yeah. And
those other teams did it for 3 weeks at some point over the course of the season as well.
Right, and we can address the whole
Blues are just the new team to do it.
And we can address the whole what's this going to look like in the offseason? Because for the now, it's like I think you just have to live in this moment to where you have a top line, you have a goaltending tandem that has allowed 2 or fewer goals in 12 of their last 15 games since the Olympic break. Like, defensively, you've got 2 guys that weren't the same player at the beginning of the season. Frankly, one of them wasn't even on this roster in terms of Lindstein that are playing like top 4 defensemen. I think the assets that the Blues possess right now since the Olympic break are better than any of those other teams, with the exception of Winnipeg, because if Connor Hellebuck gets hot, Winnipeg can go on a run.
Yeah, I feel the same way about him right now. The part is, though, is I don't know what to believe in them in the long term because of it being a hot 20-game stretch again. It feels so much like last year. Now, it does feel a little different to where the top line actually feels sustainable in the long run this time around, because you've got Thomas that's in his prime if he sticks around. You've got Snuggerud who's in just year 1, and you've got Holloway who looks like the injury was part of what his struggles were for the beginning portion of the year, and then on top of the, what was it, ankle sprain, if I remember correctly. That first line, though, feels like it's more sustainable than what it was the first time around. And the reason I say that is, yes, you had Thomas with Snuggerud, but you didn't know what Snuggerud was going to be coming off of the run from last season. And then you had Booch, which is an aging player that got a little bit of a hot streak at the same time as Robert Thomas. He was being lifted up by Thomas. This feels more sustainable with what you have on that top line because they're so young and still growing into their games.
I think the top line feels more sustainable. I think the overall team feels less sustainable.
I agree with that.
I do not believe in this the way that I did last year. Last year, to me, it was everything came together, and you could believe in the veterans and the young players simultaneously. Like, that felt really special and something that was going to be the jumping off point for hopefully years to come. This feels like a hot stretch. This feels like a team that has figured it out at the right time. They've got some good chemistry going on, and it's working for them. I have no idea how long that will remain. It might end tonight. Like, if they lose this game tonight, Alex, basically by tomorrow, we're not done talking playoffs, but, man, it gets really hard to see the path after 2 losses. 2 losses the rest of the way in regulation, and you might be done.
Yeah.
Like, that's how little wiggle room there is for this team. So I understand the optimism. They have inspired that. They have earned that. I also think it's really important to keep in mind, like, 7 out of 8 times that you simulate the rest of the season, they don't make it. 1 out of those 8 that they do. That's kind of where their odds are at right now when it comes to the playoff chances for the St. Louis Blues.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
There is. There is a hell of a lot more of a chance than there was this time last week.
And that's the part that I should mention. Like, I will have a different tone. Like, because if you lay an egg at some point, I mean, I just told you, 15 points, a 7-2-1 record. That means you can lose twice. and you'd rather lose once against the twice against the Avalanche rather than the Sharks now or the Kings on Wednesday, the only way you get there and the only way that this optimism continues is if you take care of the business that you need to do. And how many times have we seen the Blues lay eggs against teams that you're supposed to be?
It would also be totally understandable if they lose 2 times in their final 10 games of the regular season. That's still an 800 points percentage. That's awesome. If you played that way over the course of the season, you might win the President's Trophy this year.
Ooh.
But they had such an awful start to the season that they had no margin for error. They had to go on a stretch where they needed to win like 12 to 14 games in a row again just to get back into this thing, much less to actually make it into the postseason. So, yeah, like they might have to break a franchise record and win streak again in order to get in. I will bet against that. I think it's cool that they've allowed themselves to get back into this spot. They're over 500 for the first time, since October?
Yeah, October 23rd.
I read that the right way? Yeah. I think that's great.
It's going to be hard.
I don't think they're going to be able to get in.
It's going to be hard to break that franchise record winning streak when there's only one line working. You know,
what are you talking about?
Last year, there's like
Kyrie's
4 of
got
them
goals
going.
in back-to-back games.
We had an identity line. Yeah.
The Dvorsky line outchanced who'd they play on Saturday? Why am I blanking on
Toronto.
this? Yeah, they outchanced the Maple Leafs 9-0.
They've given up. Ruby's living in deja vu all over again.
Well, I don't think Barubi's living in deja vu. I think the team is living in deja vu.
He said afterwards the only guy that showed up was the goalie.
And even the goalie didn't have the greatest game.
No.
They looked a lot like that Vancouver team we saw too long ago.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not a good place to be in as an organization.
No.
He's T-Bone. That's Alex. I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. If you guys would like to get involved in the show, the place to do so is 314-399-9646. You can always check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. We will get into the Illini coming up here in about 15 minutes. Hear from you, questions and answers at 11:45. But Alex, next, JJ Wetherholt looks the part. I thought this was our open today. Alex had differing ideas. We'll get into JJ Wetherholt and what this weekend showed us for his future next here on 101 ESPN. sounded like on MLB TV over the weekend as the St. Louis Cardinals get a walk-off winner. J.J. Wetherholt comes up to the plate. Alex, I was in attendance for this one, so you knew there would be some kind of shenanigans on Saturday
For the first
afternoon.
time in your life, they went your direction.
No, the games are always interesting when I'm there. I don't know how it's going to end. T-Bone, we've been to many together. And if they're up by a bunch of runs, you know there's going to be some weird stuff that happens, and that's exactly what took place. They were up 4-0 going into the ninth inning, found a way to blow that lead, went into extras, gave up the run in extras, but then J.J. Wetherholt singles and ultimately wins the game for them. So we have now seen him, Alex, hit a home run, hit a walk-off, and overall just look great and comfortable at the plate to begin this season. I didn't know what exactly we could expect from J.J. Wetherholt early in his career, but I thought Ollie Marmol had a really interesting quote after the game on Saturday about what has impressed him so far about Wetherholt's game.
There's a pace to it. Like, the game doesn't speed up on him. He's able to take a step back and take it all in. So this early on, that's pretty special.
His ability to just stay in command of the situations is maybe what's impressed me most. He just looks polished. The guy is Jordan Walker's age, but he plays the game as if he's a 10-year veteran. Like, he plays the game. I watched last night the Seattle Mariners game on Peacock. He plays the game like Brendan Donovan did. Now, I think he's a little smoother of an athlete. He looks more just like connected at all times than sometimes Brendan Donovan did. But it's been wildly impressive so far to begin the season. What have you taken away from, it's only 3 games, it's super early on, I'm not trying to get out over our skis here, but what have you taken away from the first 3 games of the J.J. Wetherholt experience?
I mean, I think it's what that Ollie cut said and what you just said. To me, that's the sign of a guy who has the potential to get to that next level at the big leagues, is when you can calm the silence and the noise down, and you can live in that moment and come up to plate. Like in that game-winning at-bat, I heard him do the post-game with Jim Hayes, and he was like, I just walked up to the plate, was singing my walk-up music. Like, most guys aren't doing that at his age in that situation. So that, to me, is the biggest thing. Like, we know he's got the ability to make contact. We've talked already about how he works the strike zone and how impressive his batter's eye is. But it's the power and it's the situation that he can make plays in. Like, he came up with a really good defensive play, I think it was on Saturday as well, at second base. So, like, this to me is
leaping out of his shoes. That was awesome.
Yeah, this to me is a guy that can take whatever moment is handed to him and find a way to make an impact, which, again, you made the comp to Jordan Walker, but just go through any rookie we've seen from the Cardinals over the last few years. They look good, but the moment sometimes can get too big. And I could think of a couple of guys in the postseason when it mattered most that the moment got too big. So, look, I know it's opening weekend. I think there's a lot of pressure if you're playing for the Cardinals in opening weekend, especially if you're J.J. Wetherholt with what's in front of you. To me, it was his ability to calm the situation down and still make impacts is what really stood out.
From eggplant emojis over on the YouTube chat. So what Hall of Famer is BK going to compare him to?
Yeah,
I didn't, but T-Bone said earlier today that he reminds him of Robinson Cano.
Just throwing you under
He's
the
not a Hall of
bus,
Famer. He did PEDs, but yeah.
Allegedly. From the 314, guys, please, no false Redbird hype. They should be 0-3. Pitching is not good enough. Leahy and Palante will have this team 2-3 by Tuesday night.
BK wanted to calm me down with the Blues in the playoff run. We need to calm him down.
Peeing in my Cheerios, damn it, it's Monday.
I know. Why can't we just enjoy good things for once?
I don't think any of us have said that this Cardinals team's great.
Oh, no. I still
I
think
haven't
they're
heard anybody say
we haven't
anything
gotten
about
there
that.
yet. It's a secondary topic.
This, to me, was about J.J. Wetherholt over the weekend. And later on today, we'll talk about Jordan Walker. Guys, this is what the 2026 campaign is about. It's about individuals. I agree. I don't think this is a great team. And, like, they got pretty fortunate on Saturday to be up the way that they were, because while the numbers looked very good, the results looked very good for Michael McGreevy, that was not his best stuff. He was able to wiggle his way through that game with a few good defensive plays behind him and by mixing and matching as well as you possibly could have asked for from a guy like him. But, yeah, this team could easily be 0-3 to start out the season. The pitching's been mostly abysmal, and the bullpen has been truly abysmal to start out the year. But, again, we all knew that. Like, this is not a surprise to anybody listening or talking here on the radio today. The Cardinals were expected to be a mediocre to bad baseball team. What impressed me is some of the individual performances, And that's what this is all about for 2026. It's about evaluating your young talent. And in the first weekend of the season, you could not have asked for a whole lot better from a guy like J.J. Wetherholt, who came out and was just comfortable in seemingly every situation that you could have asked for out of him. So that's what stood out to me.
Yeah, I mean, we said this on opening day when we did our broadcast, that it's like, look, I don't know what this team is going to be. I'm not going to act as if winning 2 of the first 3 is, they're going to be a playoff team now. But I can tell you one thing, they're going to be an exciting group, and it's because of their players. J.J. Wetherholt being probably at the top of that list, but look at what some of the impact of these other guys did in the first opening weekend. Like, this, to me, is a Cardinals team that at least, even if the records are going to be bad, they get you to invest because they have an exciting brand of players.
They're interesting.
Yeah.
If nothing else. I don't know if they're good. I would say probably not, but they're interesting.
We'll see about their pitching.
Yeah, pitching I'm not as interested in.
Watching bad pitching, I think, is the worst experience in any sport.
Especially when your offense is
I don't think it's
inconsistent.
going to be this bad for the whole season because they had a little bit of bad luck involved in that. But I'm with you guys on everything you're saying about Wetherholt because the thing that impressed me most was it felt like he was dictating the at-bats. And you don't really see that a lot from rookies. You know, a lot of them end up kind of going with what the pitcher throws to them, and a lot of that ends up like Walker, for example. As the year went along, even in his first year, he started to fall into the traps that the pitchers wanted him to fall into, which was going after that slider low and away. For Wetherholt, it reminds me so much of a veteran like a Matt Carpenter or someone like that, to where it is, yeah, you can throw all the junk you want. I'm not going to go after it. I'm going to take some tough takes. Now, if it's called a strike and it's actually a ball, I can challenge it. But I'm going to force you into the zones that I want. And when you put a pitch where I'm looking for, like he said in that walk-off hit where he said, yeah, I was just looking for a fastball first pitch in the zone. It wasn't even a fastball. He got a sweeper that was in the zone. And he pulled it for the base hit for the win. That's like a veteran at bat. You know, that is dictating what you want to see in the zone. I'm going to look for specific pitches in the zone. When it gets to 2 strikes, then I'll adjust and I'll try and protect. But that's been the most impressive part for me is he feels in control at the plate, not the other way around where it felt like the Rays were dictating his at-bats.
I do think it's going to be interesting to see what it looks like a month from now when they have more of a book on him. Because right now, I think a lot of guys are attacking him. And in the first weekend of the season, it felt like they were like, all right, here we go. Let's pump it in. Let's pump it in, and let's see if he's able to take advantage. And he was. In the first weekend, he did everything you could have asked for. Is that going to be the case in a week, a month, 6 weeks from now? Is it still going to look that way for J.J. Wetherholt? I don't know. But, man, he's got my attention. That's for damn sure. Here's the other question that I had coming off of the weekend. Was that more about the Cardinals or the Rays? Like, who did we learn more about this weekend? Because it's entirely possible that Rays team's just going to be bad. And I know they were talking about it yesterday on the broadcast where they said, hey, they've got a lot of pitchers that are on the injured list right now. Like the Saturday starter was not supposed to start on Saturday for the Rays, but they had a guy that ended up going on the IL, and that's why he started against the Cardinals. And then some of their relievers are also hurt right now. I think McClanahan's hurt. Like, some of this is about not only the Rays not being as good as we expected them, or as some had hoped that they could be this year, but also the injuries. You ran into them at the right time. So, Alex, to you, was this weekend about the Cardinals or was it about the Rays in terms of what we saw?
I feel kind of dirty saying it because it should be about the Cardinals and how they perform, but I feel like it said more about the Rays. I mean, boy, that Rays team, and we were joking about Ryan Vilade being their set number 2 hole hitter in the opener, and like their pitching, although they have a lot of guys that are injured, I understand that. Their pitching was not very good. Now, I do give credit to the offense because you have to make the plays and come up with those big moments. But, yeah, I think that says more, at least for me, more about Tampa than it does for St. Louis because I don't think that offense can sustain 22 runs in a 3-game series. I don't think that. We were joking all offseason about where they're going to find power, where they're going to come up with these runs. I don't know if that is the way that this team is manufactured for the entire season.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it was more about the Rays and their lack of pitching than anything else. I mean, you saw their offense. Their offense was able to do pretty well over the weekend against the St. Louis Cardinals pitching staff as a whole, but they don't have the same pitching. I think it's going to be an interesting test for this 3-game set that's starting tonight against the Mets, where you're going up against Clay Holmes, Kodai Senga, 2 guys that had sub-3.5 ERAs, and then, oh, by the way, Freddie Peralta to wrap things up, who finished 5th in the Cy Young. Okay.
I always feel like he's not good against the Cardinals, but...
Well, that's fair.
He's not.
But we'll see. This will be more of a good litmus test to see, okay, how much of that power really was real versus the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll find out, I think, very soon as to just how much this was real. Cardinals do play against Washington in about a week. That team's bad. That team started Miles Michaelis over the weekend, and I don't know if you guys saw what that was like, but sure
Batting
looked a whole
practice.
lot like
Didn't
what
they
the
win
Cardinals
their
did.
home opener, though?
Yeah, they won 2 out of 3 against the Cubs. They lost the one game that Miles
So that
Michaelis
team's
started.
bad, but they won 2 out of the 3 to open up their... Okay, cool.
Yeah, did we just learn the Cubs sucked?
If that's the case, NL
And they're
Central bound.
re-signing all of their guys.
Yeah.
They're
Also,
extending
we've
everybody.
learned that the Cardinals made right moves on moving on from the former Cardinals that aren't here anymore.
Yeah. Arenado, what?
1 for
1 for 11 with 5
Contreras,
strikeouts.
I didn't see what his numbers were, but I don't think they were great.
Sonny made a weird play in
Sonny
Cincinnati.
doesn't know how to play defense.
Donnie was awesome.
Donnie was very good.
He was amazing.
Donnie
this
was the one that
weekend.
nobody wanted to move on from, though. You just had to in the situation. But Miles Michaelis, you mentioned, and then we kind of saw a little bit of Steven
What
Matz.
does it say that the 3 of the most recent veteran contact pitchers that you had? Kyle Gibson 2 years earlier went into taking a minor league deal. Lance Lynn was out of baseball the following year with the Cardinals, and then Michaelis was we need somebody to throw innings for the Nationals.
He was more or less the same situation as Gibson was, where Gibby ended up getting that deal. He got an opportunity, but it was basically over for him. And the same thing's kind of true with Michaelis. I think that was the one place that was going to give him an opportunity.
Well,
I
and
can't
also-
imagine there were many other
It's
chances.
either
for
him or Colorado, and him in Colorado. Whew.
Paul Goldschmidt's also not a starter for the Yankees.
Hey, he hits leadoff against lefties. Don't you throw my boy Goldie
He's had
under
5
the radar.
at-bats in their opening weekend.
What'd he do?
1.
1 for 5.
Yeah.
All right, it was probably against a lefty. That's
was
what
a
he
single.
signs for. He's a platoon bat at this point in his career.
Contreras had 4 walks over the weekend.
Hey,
That
there we
sounds
go.
like Contreras.
Only had a hit, but had 4 walks, got on base about 40% of the time.
That's a
You'll
high
take
on
that.
base percentage, and I like
For a
that.
cleanup hitter,
400.
sweet.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm
Leadoff hitter.
BK. In 15 minutes, we'll get into questions and answers. But next, Brad Underwood finally broke through. I find his story to be pretty remarkable in terms of how he has evolved as a head coach. We'll get T-Bone's thoughts on his Illini making it to the Final Four for really the first time in his life. And I'll give some thoughts on Brad Underwood's evolution next year on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Cardinals fell yesterday to the Rays 11-7 as they take 2 of 3 from Tampa Bay. They start a 3-game set with the New York Mets tonight. 6:45 will be first pitch. Clay Holmes on the mound for New York. Kyle Leahy will get the start for the Cardinals. Blues will be back in action tonight as well as they visit the San Jose Sharks. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 8 o'clock with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 9 o'clock with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. And the Final Four is set. Illinois will take on UConn, and Michigan will take on Arizona. The Sports Update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Illinois got it, and that's all she wrote. It's been 21 years for the Illini, but finally, the road will take them to Indianapolis. Illinois is going to the Final Four.
That's what it sounded like on Turner Sports over the weekend as the Illini get their win. I've got some thoughts, but I want to start with T-Bone, who has been a lifelong Illinois fan. He's never experienced this before in his conscious life. So his team is heading to the Final Four after a big win against Iowa. It was hard fought. It did not look pretty in the first half, but they found a way to come back in this one, 71-59. T-Bone, I'm a layout for you. What'd you think? What was this like on Saturday as your team punched its ticket to the Final Four?
This was so stressful, and it was stressful in the afternoon because I had to avoid my phone and basically avoid the play because I was doing some other stuff, so I had to watch the game late. And then watching it, I couldn't help but get flashbacks to when I watched Drake beat Missouri. The way that I was playing early on, and you looked at it and you said, man, they haven't really shot the ball well so far in this tournament. But then Sturts was playing well early on and just hitting these incredibly tough shots. And I'm going, oh, my God, this feels like the flashback to when Missouri lost to him when he was at Drake with their head coach. So I was very nervous. I had 2 stress balls. I was double fisting stress balls over the weekend for this. That's how nervous I was. But I'll say this. I think the best player in that game, everybody wants to point to Keaton Wagler in that game as he went for 25 points. Mirkovic had 12 rebounds and it was great. I think the difference maker was Stojakovic off the bench.
I love Stojakovic.
This was one of those games where I've been critical of Brad Underwood in the past when it comes to some of their tournament exits. Man, he gets out coached. I thought he got out coached a couple years ago against Loyola Chicago. I thought he made an excellent adjustment by putting Stojakovic on Sturts in that game. He just stayed with him the whole time, was relentless defensively. He's gotten this team to buy in on the defensive side of the ball. They've been excellent over the last 2 games on the defensive side of things. We always knew their offense was going to come. They started to make the adjustment. Wagler got hot, and then late they started to go into the post to try and seal that game. It was perfect. Everything about that game was perfect. It was hard fought early on, and then they were finally able to just kind of settle in and pull away from Iowa, knowing that Iowa just didn't have the offensive pieces. It was basically, if we stop Sturts, we're going to win this basketball game. And Stojakovic was able to lock him down in the second half, make him uncomfortable, and he made some of the tough shots against Boswell. I think Boswell was great against him as well. He was just making the shots on him. Stojakovic has a little bit more length to him and made life so much harder on him, and because of that, they're going to the Final Four.
Right, that's all great. What was it like as a fan? You just gave me the breakdown that Alex could have given. You're a fan of the Illini, man.
I couldn't have given it to you.
What was this like? Give me the emotion. Give me what it was like to watch your team as you just experienced something I have never experienced as a Mizzou fan. It's never happened to me. I've always been a fan of this team, and they've never been able to get to the place where you just saw your team get. As much as winning the title, that's ultimately the goal, right? The Final Four is a destination. Once you win your region, that is something special. You get to see your team cut down the nets. You get to see... Who was it? Was it Mirkovic who tried to pull the net down? Instead of actually cutting. What a scene. You got to see your coach and Brad Underwood get up there and wax poetic about not just his opportunity to do this, but also how it's always been his dream and how he's got his son on staff. And his son was such a key contributor in recruiting all of these guys. So give me that aspect of it. What was this like as a fan to be at home and to watch your team punch their ticket to the Final Four?
It was unbelievable because, even though they've been a good basketball program, I wasn't around to know that team that made it when it was Darren Williams. And then, I was, 4 or 5 when that happened. So all I've heard as like an Illinois basketball fan is about that team that got to the Final Four and how good they were. And, I can remember my basketball coaches like showing clips of that team of like, this is how you move the basketball without it touching the floor. See, you can move the ball and still score points. And then, like, I'd watch teams growing up and be like, man, this Myers-Leonard team, like, just not it. I remember the John Gross era go, this is not it. And even though Underwood's had some really good teams, it's felt like an impossible spot to get to. It's like when they finally did it over the weekend, I like, couldn't help myself. I was just, like, staying there in, like, disbelief as to what had just happened because it has still felt like an obstacle that they couldn't get to, right? I felt during that game, especially in the first half, to where I was like, it's going to happen again, isn't it? Where they're just going to find a way to where even though I feel like I say it every year, this is the best team Brad Underwood has constructed. I felt like they were going to get stumped again and not be able to get to it. And then to see the scene where you get Brad Underwood, who's become such a figure for the Illini program, and he's been able to take this team and evolve over time, it was special. Like, it was unbelievable to watch it. Like, I immediately got online. I looked at tickets to see the Final Four. I was like, I wonder if I could get out of this, like, get out of work and go to it. And I saw, oh, no, I can't. Not because I couldn't get out of work, mostly for the $1,000 it was going to cost to get it. But I looked. That's how excited I was. I was like, maybe I could justify getting Final Four tickets to only be slapped back down.
Sometimes you justify it, though.
Yeah, not
if
for
it's
this
a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
for this
Come
one.
on, I mean, sometimes you justify it. Like my dad, though, paid money to go see Game 6 in the Cup final because he'd never seen one, and then the Blues got whacked 7-3.
Yeah.
It was a fun night for him.
Yeah.
Let's see. How much are Final Four tickets right
Cheapest
now?
was like $1,000 up
on,
in the.
what do you're
You could get in right now for $485.
$485.
You could
thought he
get in
said
right now for
45, and I'm like,
$485.
It's still quite a bit for
You should. You're single, man.
That's a lot of money. That might be worth it.
Get a credit card and put it on the credit card and pay it off over
For
time.
$485, it might be worth it for you to go. Hell, we could start up a GoFundMe for you.
Don't
get
do
you out there
that. Don't start a GoFundMe for T-Bone. He's
I
got
know
a
how
job.
much.
He's single. He can afford it.
I know how much Alex hates the
wrong on that
GoFundMe.
part.
I hate GoFundMes.
Just the thing that stood out to me about this team and really this season for Brad Underwood, because I find his story to be pretty fascinating. He has completely evolved as a head coach. Like, think about the profile of the team when he arrived at Illinois.
Yeah, let's get into the block with Coburn.
It was fast, this breakneck pace, create havoc on defense. They were 4th in the country in turnover rate that they forced defensively. So their stops were almost exclusively about causing steals. They were bottom 15 in free throw rate allowed because they were fouling all the time, because they would try to get into these passing lanes, and sometimes by being overly aggressive, you're going to foul a ton, right? They were also one of the teams that they get up and they run, and then they decide, all right, we're going for twos. A lot of twos. They were not the biggest team in the world. Well, they've completely changed the way they play. This year, dead last in turnover rate forced defensively. There's nobody in the country that forced fewer turnovers on a rate basis than this year's Illini. So they man you up, and they're going to get stops because they think they're better than you. They also allowed the lowest rate of free throws in the country. They don't foul. They man up, they get stops, and they're going to get going the other direction. And when they do, they slow it down, they have great ball movement, and they shoot the hell out of the three ball. They went from 36% of their shots being threes to this year, half of their shots are three-pointers, Alex. Half of them. One of the top rates in the country in terms of three-pointers. So they have also focused their recruiting from, obviously, domestic to very international. They've got the Balkan Five. The evolution of Brad Underwood as a coach is, to me, one of the most fascinating storylines of this year's Final Four, because he has completely changed who he is, how his teams play, and he has adjusted based upon what the game is calling for now. It is a big game. You look around the Final Four, each of the 4 teams that remain are top 30 in the country in average height that is on the court. Illinois is number 1 in that category. They have adjusted at the exact time when college basketball has changed. So for him to see this, to adjust to it, and to be on the front end of it, it's pretty remarkable for a guy, especially as experienced as Brad Underwood is. You typically don't see guys at this age with his experience level completely alter how they play as a team. So it's been wildly impressive, and It's been a hell of a coaching job by Brad Underwood to identify this talent, to get them to play together, to get everybody to buy into the style that they are playing right now, and ultimately for them to execute on this Final Four run. It's very impressive.
Yeah, and like you said about...
Also, they played nobody.
Oh, here we go.
He's not wrong. Your toughest matchup in that bracket comes into the Final Four.
You could possibly ask for.
And they go home.
VCU, a Houston team that was complete frauds all year long.
And then Iowa.
Iowa,
you feel good about
a 9
Iowa?
seed in the Elite Eight
Florida
to get to the
couldn't beat
Final
Iowa.
Four.
Well, Florida wasn't that good.
Just a completely fraudulent run to the Final Four, T-Bone.
Your
that's
toughest,
just
your toughest matchup in the tournament is the Final Four.
Oh, when we're in the title game, that'll be our toughest matchup. Yeah.
I think you can beat UConn. I think they can.
I'm kidding. To get to the Final Four, I don't care what your path is. You earned this.
Oh, I wasn't going to take it from you, Mizzou.
And Iowa is a really good team, man. In a one-off in the tournament, that guy's as good as anybody. You don't have to convince me on how impressive it is to beat that guy in this tournament.
And let me tell you,
good.
you want to talk about seeing Tebow nervous? Imagine when I start the game and it's like 10-0 in the first 5 minutes. I was going, oh my God, what the bleep is happening?
Yep.
Because I was so confident when I said on air on, what was that, Friday, where I said, hey, yeah, I think they can beat Iowa. It'll probably be a tight game, but I think they can take care of it. And then when it was 10-0 right away, and you could tell Illinois was kind of falling victim to their style, oh my gosh, I was pacing. I was pacing during that game. I'm going to be a mess on Saturday, by the way, for that game.
YouTube chat said, BK, go ahead and start that GoFundMe. Let's see if we can get him into the game. Crowdsourcing. So Max said, I got 20 for T-Bone.
Let's go, Max.
This is ridiculous. You're single. You can afford it.
Can you imagine if we actually did get the money for T-Bone?
I'd keep it.
You should
most
put your
do with
Venmo
GoFundMes.
QR code on the side of your car.
Put your Venmo out there and see if people will Venmo you.
Get me to Indy.
Yeah, don't
you
do a
drive to Indy,
GoFundMe. Put your
and
Venmo.
on the way, people are Venmoing you $20.
Put your Venmo and see how much people like you there. That's the way to do it. Don't
It's
do a
T-Bone,
GoFundMe.
that's Alex on BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Hey, by the way, we don't have a ton of time for this because T-Bone got excited about his Illini, as he should be. Josh Schertz sticking with SLU, had a little bit of a flirtation with NC State. Doesn't matter. I seen some backlash to this. Guys, this is the job. He listens to what people have to offer. He decides he wants to stay. He turned down Syracuse and NC State to stay at SLU. That guy's a legend. He's got all the money. This is going to end up being good for SLU. I'm guessing he had some leverage. He probably got a little bit more. I don't know this to be the case, but I'm guessing he probably got a little bit more in the NIL fund. Matt Norlander, your guy Alex, said he's got $10 million to spend in NIL. That's unbelievable for a program like SLU to be able to utilize. I'm fascinated to see where this thing goes.
Just trying to understand the backlash for a guy that is flirting with other teams that are willing to give him a lot of money and an opportunity that is good for his career. He said no. That's what you should be applauding rather than backlash towards a guy that was actually listening to other offers.
I don't know if this ended up playing a fact or a part of what led to the report of $10 million in NIL revenue. You know how you also get your university add a little bit more to your NIL revenue? Go flirt with somebody else, right?
Yeah, trying to do good
you
for the
almost
team.
have to do that. I know it sucks because there is the chance he flirts and actually falls in love and ends up at NC State. He also forces your administration and the people that you want to spend money to keep him to throw more money at him to keep him. So, yeah, it's part of the job. Also, it forces SLU to do things that they should do. So I don't care that he's flirting with other teams. Go for it.
It happens.
So
Everybody
far,
needs to.
our text line has contributed $150 to T-Bone, and our YouTube chat is in for 40.
Oh, yes.
We're like halfway to T-Bone getting to Indy, just based upon people already pledging their support for T-Bone.
It's great. You all are incredible. I think T-Bone's ridiculous and needs to afford it like an adult.
Coming up next, questions and answers here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. We might be getting T-Bone to this game.
All because of my hatred towards it. Way to go, everybody.
As much as I want to go, I feel dirty taking your money to go to Indy.
To
I'll
take
take
the
it for
money,
him.
agreed. There's somebody on the text line that might be able to help you out.
I feel
with
dirty
tickets.
taking that guy's tickets.
If they're offering it to
dude,
you,
if
it's
somebody
not
offers
dirty.
you tickets, you take them.
If they're offering it, I don't understand. It's not dirty. They're volunteering it
I'll
towards
just go
you.
ahead and say, I'm not going to out the guy and who it is on the text line, but somebody is potentially offering T-Bone the ability to go into a suite in Indy for the Illini game on Saturday. T-Bone, you have to go if that is offered.
I don't think there's anything dirty with what you're not begging for it. We're the ones that are pining for it, and people are like willingly giving
it's not
it.
even we, it's him. You're the one who's
I
not
think it's
wanting to
terrible
donate.
If we
idea.
can get you to Indy to watch the Illini in the Final Four, we've got to find a way to do it.
I think it's horrible. You should just pay for it like an adult, but that seems to like make people want to give you it
you know
more.
what?
So you're welcome.
Somebody
I
on the
hate
text
you every
line
time
said,
you
just
say grow
embrace
up.
it.
I don't want to grow up. I want to sleep till 11 a.m. on my
I
Saturday.
never said grow up. I said use the money that you have as a full-time employee to pay for it.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK.
Comment
What are
on
the
that.
bills you got to worry about over there?
There's a lot of bills. You know, living by yourself in St. Louis ain't cheap or easy.
I mean, this is real. This guy just emailed me. T-Bone, you got to go. You got to go. You
don't know what you have to pay
gotta text
afterwards.
You got to text your mom and dad and say, I'm going to the Final Four.
Hey, if you don't, to BK and I might do it.
Yeah, I'm about to take this up, but I got a kid at home that I've got to watch.
I know.
this
If you
week.
don't, BK and I are just going to have a dad's weekend. We out.
God.
Me and T-Bone me and Alex are about to drive out to Indy this
You
weekend.
can stay here and you could do the Blues game for that afternoon while
no,
BK and I are
definitely
there.
not. Definitely not. I'd definitely rather be in Indy.
This would be this is an all-time experience.
This is you need to videotape your whole way through this. This is
100%.
like spitting
See,
chiclets.
I'm not one of those guys. I'm not a videotaping.
Well, you got
You've got to, though.
You got to
no,
document
this you've
this.
got
This is
to.
content. You document this.
100%.
You're going to
not that
freaking
guy.
Illinois for
Your
the Final
team,
Four.
T-Bone, how old are you?
26.
You have never
Young pup.
seen something like this before, ever.
You didn't get to see
never
D.
seen it.
Brown.
Yeah, I
And
did not see D.
now,
Brown.
the first time you get the opportunity to do so. And we don't know how much time Brad Underwood has left as a head coach at Illinois.
Whoa.
He's getting up there. Let's
He's
be
only
real.
like 62.
Yeah, we don't know.
With the Angels.
He's going to last longer at his program than Dennis Gates at his.
Probably.
Dennis is gone in a year.
This may be your one opportunity to see your team in the Final Four. And if you've got an opportunity to go to that game in Indy, dude, you got to do it.
Yep.
You got to do it.
Yep. I think you're crazy if you
All
don't,
right,
man.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service
We
text
are.
line.
The biggest
for
question.
questions and answers from Blue 42. Set Pizza Hut.
What the bleep just
Set.
happened?
T-Bone, go!
Are you guys more excited about the Cardinals game tonight or the Blues game tonight?
Cardinals game.
Blues. And that's a 9 o'clock puck drop. I'm excited for it. It's the first time I've had exciting hockey since last year in Game 7 double overtime, which we all know how that ended.
Cardinals game wins by default because I hate 9 o'clock first pitches and 9 o'clock puck drops. And I'm not even working a double
I've
shift
already
like
been
Alex.
told that the legend himself, Grant Francis, will be returning to St. Louis if they make the playoffs.
Alex, you'll be surprised by this. I'm actually more excited for the Blues game tonight.
I'm
The
not
reason
surprised by
being
that
it's-
you have a son that literally only watches
Oh,
hockey.
that's true. Dude, he was thrilled when we got to the Cardinals game over the weekend. We spent yesterday playing baseball in the backyard.
Yeah.
I saw the
Oh, that's
swinging
great.
lefty.
Oh.
Yeah. He's showing a little pop.
It's funny,
Sarah
it's
lefty?
funny when you get
Is
to
Kara a lefty?
Neither of us are lefties. He's not a lefty either. He throws right, does everything else with his
Oh,
right
he's
hand,
one
but
of those.
BK taped
swings
his
with
left
his
hand
left. I
on
don't know
top
what
of the
happened.
bat. Told him you're only a lefty.
Shoots
These guys
lefty,
get
too.
paid. Huh?
Shoots lefty too in the hockey.
Anytime your kid starts showing athletic ability, because my girls were hitting the golf clubs the other day and hit the well, and I'm like, oh, damn.
Yeah, but anyway, on the Blue side of things, it's a more meaningful game.
Yeah.
There's a real, this is an opportunity to continue to jump up in the playoff standings. Matt,
There's going to be so much Cardinals baseball over the next 6 months. I'll get the excitement there. I'm going to enjoy
I'll
these
see.
next 4 weeks.
Careful what you say there because I think the Cardinals' excitement only lasts about a month.
that might be true.
Fine.
From the 618, what's your guys' opinion of the new Sunday Night Baseball crew? I really liked the local commentators being involved. I really liked the broadcast last night. I thought it was great.
Are they-
Ottavino was really good.
I asked this question because I don't really know what NBC's plans are. Is that not their main crew?
I don't know. I know.
Because if they're going to do the whole like rotating color commentators in, I'm sorry, it's not going to be good. Because they did this on, what was that pitiful little channel that had games, Roku?
Oh,
where they
yeah,
would
the
have the
morning
play-by-play
ones.
guy,
Yep.
and then they would have the color commentator for the team there. In theory, it sounds great because you get guys that know the team. The problem is there's no chemistry. And you felt that a little bit at times last night. I
Yeah.
just thought it was because it's their first game together.
I think Benetti is good no matter who's next to him. I do agree with you, though. It's really hard to develop chemistry on the fly. So, like, if he's going to do a game with BT, and this is no shot at BT whatsoever, I promise, it's just impossible to have the same chemistry that BT has with Chip Carey.
Yeah.
Because they haven't done games together. It would be hard for us if we like had to parachute into a different city and do shows with different people. It wouldn't sound the same as the three of us doing a show together. So, yeah, I don't know if that's the plan or not, but I did like Adam Ottavino. I thought he was very good. And Benetti, I think, is one of the best baseball play-by-play guys going right now.
I agree. I thought the crew was great. I love Benetti. I thought Ottavino in the bullpen was an interesting touch because nobody's really done that before, and he's sitting where he's used to being in a bullpen,
Yeah.
and he was great on breaking down pitch sequencing. I thought the color commentators were great. Again, if that's not what the crew is for the whole time, I don't know if it's going to be able to be the same thing and sound as good. But I thought it was a very good presentation for the first Sunday night game on NBC.
Somebody said it's a business obligation. T-Bone, you have to go to the Final Four. You have to document it. You drop this material on the YouTube channel.
This is content for your job.
I'm with you.
And should the job pay for it?
No.
I'm sure you could probably get some kind of a write-off for this. I don't know how exactly.
It's a
but-
write-off. You don't even know what a write-off is.
All right, alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll get into in or out, 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line. But next, Jordan Walker showing some signs of life. Are you ready to believe it yet, Alex? We'll talk about it next here on 101 ESPN.
fly ball. That's well struck. Left center field gap. Mullins will wave goodbye. A 3-run homer for Jordan Walker.
Is it happening? Is it finally happening? Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. That's what it sounded like over the weekend. Cardinals TV, Chip Carey on the call. Jordan Walker had multiple extra base hits this weekend in a game for the first time since September of 2024, Alex.
That's pretty good.
He has 3 extra base hits in his first 3 games. He had 3 extra base hits in his first 26 games a year ago. I don't really know what to do with this because, yes, it is an extremely small sample size. He was awful in spring training. So this is the beginning of the sample size of him looking competent at the plate, much less good, and he looked excellent over the first 3 games of the regular season. So is that enough to just have us all buy in all the way? No, of course not. However, it is quite literally his best 3-game stretch in 18 months. So by that metric, I am absolutely going to celebrate it because it is worth celebrating. Now, the tough thing about baseball is you then have to do it again and again and again and again and again over the course of the next 150 games. Otherwise, it is a hot streak, not a quality season. Alex, what did you make of this over the weekend? Because Walker was a guy that you and T-Bone and Derek all said was under more pressure than anybody else in the first 60 days of the season. Mm-hmm. He certainly is off to a good start.
He's off to a great start. I mean, this is what you want, especially for how his spring training ended, to where you weren't hitting and you had to go into the work lab, and then you come back those final couple of games, you perform well, and it's like, yeah, but what does it matter once you get to the major league level? I said it earlier when we were talking about it. Like, I think this was more about the product of the Rays than it was the Cardinals. You're absolutely right. Like, I'm going to celebrate Jordan Walker doing this in 3 games because, frankly, we have been wanting to see signs of life and a heartbeat from Jordan Walker. But I'm also not going to sit here and act as if, okay, all of the problems are now gone and let's move forward as if Jordan Walker is back to the hype we put on him originally. I said this in the offseason. Like, you're going to need a good 2 months of consistently before I can look at Jordan Walker and be like, okay, cool, now there's signs of life. Because all it is right now is 1 series, and it's 1 hot streak. It's 1 game, it's 2 games, it's 3 games to where he approaches his at-bat differently. I mean, making contact is massive for him, showcasing the power, we all know it's there. But I'm not going to get all hyped for 1 series for Jordan Walker because much like what Nolan Gorman used to be, you'd see it for a month and then it was just gone. So before I get anywhere with Jordan Walker, it's going to be, what do you do for 2 weeks? What do you do for 4? What do you do for 6? Once you get a couple of those underneath your belt, then I can start looking at it as, okay, Jordan Walker with some signs of life.
Yeah, I mean, he was impressive over the weekend. I agree with what Alex is saying, though. Like, it's going to take some time to buy into him, but it was nice to see some baby steps to start the year, and some loud baby steps, might I add, because holy crap, when he makes contact does he hit the ball hard. I was impressed by it, especially because, like, the things he did damage on over the weekend was changeups. You know, that was a pitch along with the slider. You know, he didn't see a lot of sliders this weekend, which is puzzling. Makes me wonder about Tampa Bay Rays pitching coach. But he didn't see a lot of sliders, but it's not like he was good against changeups last year. Like, if you look at what the advanced numbers will tell you versus off-speed pitches last season, he actually hit for a lower average on that than breaking balls last year. And yet this weekend, and again, it's a small sample size, he saw 3 that he put in play. He's hit 1,000 on him. He's doing damage to him as well. So I don't know if that is a sign of things to come, that he is going to potentially get back on track in his development. But it is nice to see, and I think what's so critical for him at least is, you know, he's gone through another offseason of, hey, we're going to change the swing. We're going to go through this whole process again of, Jordan, we got to start working on these things in the offseason. We need to right the ship. And then you go into spring training and you're not getting results, and they pull him back. And they say, no, keep working on it, right? The process is right. We're not getting results yet. Stick to the process. It is huge for him to start off a 3-game series, to have some results that are coming through with this process, just so there's some positive reinforcement to be added to it. It may mean nothing in the overall stretch of the year. It may mean nothing in a week from now when we're talking about their next 2 series. It's just great encouragement to see that he's getting some results out of this that can hopefully translate to carrying and building upon it.
Yeah, with off-speed pitches, I'm glad you brought that up, T-Bone, because over the last 2 years combined, he had 2 extra base hits against off-speed pitches. he had 0 home runs against them. In the first weekend of the year, he had 2 extra base hits and a home run against off-speed pitches. So there's something happening there. What exactly is it? I don't know. How meaningful will this be a week from now, a month from now? I again, do not know. But there are some tangible changes that we have seen with his approach. He looks just more comfortable. Now, this is just something anecdotally, but he looks more comfortable at the plate.
He also looks more closed at the
He is.
because he's not like, I don't see the hip flying out as much as it did in years past.
And that's actually like, so StatCast is tracking all of that
We
stuff.
have a hip stat track now.
Stance angle.
What
How
was his
open
oopsie
are you?
rate?
He was at
Sorry,
2 years ago, 42 degrees open. Last year, 17. This year, 10. So his stance is literally more closed off than it used to be. And if you're just looking at like where he stands in the box, that's also changed. Now that's more marginal, but it has changed a bit. If you're looking at how fast he's swinging, well, he's getting his A swing off more often through 3 games than he did in the past, and that's probably because of the pitch recognition. If you're looking at the attack angle, remember I brought this up last year when he was going through that hot stretch where it was like, yeah, he's having success, guys, but the swing is the exact
Everything was on the
same.
ground.
It's the exact same as it was. That's changed. He's actually attacking the ball from the ideal angles now to where he's getting the ball in the air and he's able to put the ball into the seats because he's not hitting it straight onto the ground and attacking it going in a downward plane. Now he's getting it on the sweet spot. I mean, almost every hit that he's had so far this year, more than 50% of them, the batted balls, they're at the exact angle that you would want it to be. So I don't know, man. I certainly didn't expect to be having this conversation today, but I'm kind of excited to see what Jordan Walker's going to be. I want to see more of this to find out, is there something he can build on here? The Cardinals have been talking positively about him all offseason, putting in the right work, finally buying into the things that they were selling, and maybe he did need to hit rock bottom before he could get out on the other side. I also wonder this, is it possible that JJ's presence is helping Jordan Walker? Because he no longer is viewed as the savior. He's not the guy. Honestly, by most accounts, he's kind of been written off as he's not going to be here this time next year. And now JJ Wetherholt is the one that has a lot of that pressure on him to be kind of the face of the franchise. Maybe that's helping with Walker too. Now that's, again, anecdotally, it's more Monday morning quarterbacking, but I do wonder about that. I wonder if there's something mentally that's kind of clicking for Jordan Walker in a number of different ways.
I also think probably for a guy like that, like you just have guys that are in front of you in terms of you're kind of in the back seat now, which could be a good thing for him, to where you're not in the spotlight, to where it's, hey, Jordan Walker needs to carry this team. Jordan Walker needs to be great if this team wants to have any success. Now it's Wetherholt who gets all of that pressure, which he might be able to handle. Mason Wynn, who seemingly is a face of this team. Herrera and Burleson with their bat. So now Jordan Walker can kind of take the back seat to like, hey, I can go about my business without the pressure of I have to be a 30 home run hitter to have any success.
What's interesting about it is I think all the storylines, I think what you guys are saying is right. A lot of the storylines have pushed to JJ, but I still think there's still the more pressure is on Walker. Walker's the guy that determines potentially how long this rebuild is. Because if you get the bounce back from Jordan Walker, and this is real, by the way, like if this is what he is, and he's going to have a guy that can get back to the potential that we saw, now we're talking about a lineup that's got some thump to it. You're now talking about 4 hitters in this lineup of Wetherholt, Burley, Herrera, on top of another right-handed arm in your outfield, right-hand back, in Jordan Walker. Now everything is starting to piece together, and you almost might be here sooner than you're expecting. And that's before you add on, other complementary pieces like Mason Wynn if he gets back to being league average. What Nolan Gorman's bat ends up looking like this season. Is what we're seeing from Victor Scott going to be real, to where, he's actually bunting for base hits now, and he gets on and he steals 60 bases. Like, now everything looks... you still got to squint to see it, but you can potentially see where, okay, this might be going quicker than you expect. But if he doesn't, and this is nothing but a mirage, and he gets back to being the same guy, this rebound is going to take a lot longer because it's another failed prospect, and now you've got to try and find the replacement for Jordan Walker, right? And you got to hope that it's Joshua Baez, and that's before we even have the conversation about, well, who the hell is your starting left fielder when everything goes right for this rebuild to be over?
So I agree. I still think he represents something significant for the Cardinals. I do not feel like that pressure is there from the outside the way that it was previously. It might be more internal pressure than it is anything from fans. I think fans have turned their attention to JJ. I think that's the guy that people are now talking about in the way that you just discussed Jordan Walker. Now, I agree with you. I think all of that still can exist for him. I think he represents something of real significance for this lineup. But that pressure is not there the way that it was this time last year.
I agree.
And I think that is something that if you're in his shoes, I do wonder what that can do for you as a player to just feel more free, to not feel that pressure from the outside the way that it has really been there for each of the past 3 seasons, where he comes up, he's the savior. The next year he comes in and he's expected to be the guy in the lineup. And then the next year, because of his struggles from 2 years ago, he just never finds it. He never figures it out. So I don't know. This is all me projecting onto Walker. Maybe he would say that's nonsense. I just haven't been able to get my swing right. And it's not a mental thing. It's a physical thing. Maybe. But from the outside looking in, it does look like he's been carrying this with him as well, where that pressure has gotten to him and he internalizes a lot of that. Again, that's just my perspective on it, though. So I'm fascinated to see where it goes. You guys care about Nolan Gorman?
Who?
Getting platooned in this?
Oh, Gorman. Yeah.
No, but I think that tells you everything about where he's at in terms of the timeline of the Cardinals franchise.
I actually don't mind it. I've kind of brought this up before when we had a conversation on the Redbird Report about, what would it be okay if he was actually just the DH for the Cardinals? You know what? When Gorman's on a contending team, when Gorman's on a good baseball team, he's probably doing? He's platooning at third, or he's platooning at second, depending on where they want him.
Sure.
He's never really been a guy that has hit left-handed pitching. So you know what? I'm fine if this is what they want to do. If you can maximize Gorman by just having him face righties, I'm okay with that, even in a rebuilding year. I think you've learned what Gorman is. Now it's about, okay, we know he can't hit lefties, but can we get more out of him against right-handed pitching if we limit him to matchups that favor him? I'm kind of cool with that.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with it either. That being said, he's been basically as good against lefties in his career as he has against righties. That is the one thing. The one season where he was not was 2024. But other than that, like past few years, 840 and 740 OPS against lefties, pretty similar to what he's been overall. So I don't know if it's totally necessary, but if they want to keep Ramon Urias going, and we've seen this in the past where they've kind of in the beginning of the regular season tried to keep all of their guys fresh, ready to go, and then as you get further into the year, they'll stick more with their guys. I don't really have an issue with this, though. And Urias has been pretty good against lefties over the past couple of seasons. He had an 840 and a 740 OPS. So you're also maximizing him as a player if you go about it this way. So I'm personally fine. It
makes sense why they signed Urias, too. We were having those conversations like, why would you go get that when you have all of these guys on the roster? In the Velasquez conversation, it's because Urias can play third that they feel comfortable with, and he's a good split. And that's what this is now for Nolan Gorman. I think it tells you a lot of where Nolan Gorman's at just in terms of his lifespan with the Cardinals. He's no longer viewed as an everyday player. He's now a platoon bat.
He's Alex. That's T-Bone on BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Coming up at the 1 o'clock hour, we're going to be joined by Chris Pronger. He's Hockey Hall of Famer, now doing a bunch of analyst work for FanDuel Sports Midwest. He's going to talk to us about his new book, which is going to be released coming up here in a couple of weeks. We'll talk to him about that, also get his thoughts on this run that the Blues are on. That's all coming up at 1 o'clock. But next, in or out, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line here on 101 ESPN. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for in or out. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are in or out here on BK and Ferrario. Let's start out with this one. In or out, guys. This is the last year the CB Buckner is going to be an umpire in Major League Baseball. Did you see this over the weekend?
That poor man went through it.
Boy,
Honestly,
Saturday, 8 different calls were challenged with Buckner behind the plate. 6 of them were overturned, and it could have been worse because there were multiple calls that could have been challenged later in the game. But I believe it was the Red Sox had lost their challenges, so they weren't able to challenge them. And Alex Cora, I think, was eventually thrown out of the game for arguing.
I don't typically root for guys to lose their jobs. He's one of them that I do, just because kind of the attitude that he possesses when he's there.
Let's call a spade a spade. He's not good at it.
It's terrible.
He's one of the worst umpires going now. He replaced Angel Hernandez.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's like Angel Hernandez.
Which, by the way, I loved Ken Rosenthal's idea today in his piece of putting him behind the plate for the All-Star game so we get a challenge fest. I'm all in for it.
Those guys that can't make it in Major League Baseball, they just need to send them to Banana Ball.
Have you guys liked it so far? The ABS system?
It's quick. It's efficient.
I'm kind of surprised by the backlash that it's received in some corners.
It's received backlash?
Yeah, there are some that do not love it. And
is it because of the old-fashioned, it's not traditional?
I guess.
Because they want human error. I love it, especially in we're not seeing it now to where it matters as much because it's opening week. But when we get deeper into the season and playoff games matter, you know how crucial that's going to be?
I think it's great. It's super quick, too. It's like in tennis, how quickly they're able to just review it.
Challenge,
it's in, boom, done.
My biggest fear with it, and we'll see if it ever comes to it, is if you suddenly get 9th innings or 8th innings that really drag on because of multiple challenges. But we haven't really seen that. And even then, that red scheme that you just brought up with our boy Buckner, 8 challenges and it didn't really impact that long of the game. The one that I've seen that people say is if we're going to go to this, let's go to the full ABS. That one will add time to games because as they learned over in the minor leagues.
That one?
That's one where every ball strike is called by the robot.
That one I don't think we need.
No. I think the current system is great.
Because, yes, umpires will miss them. What you've seen a lot, though, in these outside of Buckner, a lot of these guys, when they miss, they barely miss on these calls.
They're close.
It's impressive how good the umpires are outside of Buckner at making calls on balls and strikes. The problem when you go to the full ABS that they learned in the minor leagues, it actually increased games by I think it was 10 or 15 minutes because those ones that are just marginal misses that the umpire may flip from what was a strike to a ball, the robot gets that correct all the time, so the walk rates went up a lot. So I like the system in place as it is.
Guys,
what do you got for us?
In or out, after all of the potential of trades that could happen by the Blues, we see less than 2 moves in terms of trades this upcoming offseason.
So over under at 1.5?
Yeah. You'd take the under.
I still think it's probably going to go over. I will disagree with it potentially, but I think
they move Thomas and Parayko?
I don't know who it's going to be, but I think Kairu's gone for sure, and then I think they make another move in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I think I'm out as well. I think I'm with BK. I think there's probably another move that we're not thinking of. Kairu feels like he's gone, and then maybe it's not Thomas now, but I could still see them making the argument to move Parayko. He doesn't fit with the timeline. At least with Thomas, you could change the timeline from 26 to 27, and now he's in it. Parayko doesn't fit in that. So maybe they still explore the Parayko one, so I would say out as well.
I'm out on this the other out of Puce Suter being the guy.
Yeah, well, the way they use Puce and how much Jim talks about Puce, I think that guy might be here. But I'm out. I do think they're going to have to make more moves. I don't think it's Thomas and Parayko. I think they're going to have to find other forwards to move out. I was talking to Donnie about this because we're going to mention it on the podcast tomorrow. They're going to have to find some type of spot for Berggren, whether he's the 13th forward or what. But he obviously is a pretty impactful forward. And with Carbonneau coming in, you got a lot of bodies that don't fit in the 9 forward selections that you have. So I think it's still going to be a fascinating offseason. I just don't think it's going to be the Thomas and Parayko conversation.
Guys, in or out, the Cardinals will lose fewer than 90 games this season.
Trying to tug at your heartstrings of how great this opening weekend was, right, BK?
No, I don't think they're as bad as people made it out to be before the season. Now, I've been saying this all offseason as well. I think that's closer to the right number. I think Vegas is pretty low.
Yeah,
I think your number
66
is better.
66 or 68?
Something like that, yeah. I'll say they lose fewer than 90. I'll go with it. And
yeah, I don't think they're a 100 loss team, and I don't think they're a 95 loss team. I think they're probably like a 81 team. I think they're close to a 500 team.
Yeah, I would lean out. I'm not saying they're losing 100. I still think they're going to lose like 90 to 95. And there wasn't encouraging signs on their bullpen. I think if they were going to be a team that lost fewer than 90, the bullpen was going to have to be pretty good. And the bullpen's not giving off good vibes.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for in or out. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are in or out. We'll get to a few of these here from the text line. From the 314, in or out, Alex. Detroit's pick will be higher than the Blues pick this year.
Yeah.
I'm going to say out because you really have to win the lottery with that pick, because if they miss the playoffs, which I seriously believe they're going to, it's still probably going to be like the 14th or 15th overall pick. And that you can only win the lottery of moving 10 picks. So you're talking 4th or 5th. And I think the Blues are in a really weird spot to where if they continue to play on a heater, they're going to make the playoffs. But if they don't, I think they'll fall somewhere in the top 10. So I'll say out. I think Detroit's is going to be like 14th or 15th unless they win the lottery.
I'm out as well. I think that Detroit will pick after you.
Sweep it. I agree with you guys. I don't. They're not going to fall as low as
that is going to be a lottery pick, though. I don't think they're playing worse than Ottawa, Columbus, and Pittsburgh. And frankly, what they have to worry about now is Philadelphia, because they've played the same amount of games and they have the same amount of points, and Philly's won 3 in a row.
From Big Steve, in or out, Joel Hofer would start over Bennington if the Blues made the playoffs. That's fascinating.
Can I be honest? This is like the main reason I want to see them make the playoffs. Outside, it'd be fun. But it'd be such a fascinating goalie controversy.
Do you guys really think there's a conversation with it, though? I don't.
I don't think there's either, but I think after what becomes
Benner
interesting.
Keeps playing the way that he has recently, it might be a conversation.
See, I don't, and this is coming from the biggest.
I know teams don't really do this. Sorry, Alex.
They won't do it.
Could they split it?
I don't think so.
Monty's done it, though.
I don't think
Monty did that
in Boston.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think he did do it in Boston.
I think he did
it in the regular season, and then when the playoffs started, he stuck with the
he
goalie.
did a couple of years ago.
I thought he did, because that was the criticism when they lost to Florida.
See, I thought that was Ullmark and Swayman, and I thought he picked Ullmark, and Ullmark failed, and people were like, "Why didn't you go with Swayman?"
Yeah, I thought he was splitting it. That was the controversy with them, because I would say you got to pick one and ride them.
Yeah, you have to.
Like, I would pick Hofer.
They stuck with Ullmark.
Yeah, and Ullmark failed. And Ullmark failed, and that was the criticism of, like, how did he not go with Swayman? You just don't do this in the playoffs. And I think you go with a goaltender, and if he fails, then you go to the other goaltender. Pittsburgh did it when they had God, who was the backup? That Matt Murray with Fleury, and like Fleury faltered. They put Murray in, and Murray went on that run for him. I don't even think it's a conversation, and I'm the biggest Binnington honk. If they make the playoffs, you go to Hofer. Hofer has been the number one guy for you since the Olympic break, really since November, and Binnington's just going to be a extremely strong. It's why I would give the Blues a chance, because if one goalie struggles, the other one steps in and has success too.
All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for in or out. Last one here from the 618. In or out, the NCAA wishes they could reseed the Final Four to get a Michigan versus Arizona championship game. Man, that game's going to be unbelievable. I saw this on Twitter the other day. Ken Palm puts together, it's called the Thrill Score. So just basically how much anticipation.
The amount of like stats that people come up with is wild. I know. How do we come up with this stuff?
So it basically will put together, all right, based upon the matchup, based upon the quality of these teams, how much anticipation is there for this specific matchup with the two teams? It's the number 3 versus number 4 Ken Palm teams of all time. It is considered right now to be the highest thrill score in the history of Ken Palm, which dates back to 2011. So the anticipation for this game is about as high as you could possibly ask for. That being said, no, because the championship game will rate no matter what. Now, the Final Four will as well, don't get me wrong, but that's a winner take all. Mm-hmm. You kind of want this here to set the anticipation for the Final Four, and then you also get another one with the championship game. This is the value of having the great teams advance, is you get a matchup like this. So no, I think they're thrilled about the matchups that they have right now in the Final Four.
I think there are some years they would like to reseed it. Sure. I don't think this is one of them, because I know UConn is a 2 and Illinois is a 3. Those are both really good 2 and 3s. Like, Illinois has, the best offense in the Ken Palm era? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, that's not a bad 3 seed to have on the other side of the bracket. So I think this year, no, I don't think they would want to reseed it. In years past, I think there's arguments at times where you would want to see them get reseeded.
It's 1 versus 2 in Ken Palm. Michigan versus Arizona. It's going to be awesome.
What's UConn in Ken Palm?
9.
Okay, I thought they were top 10.
Yep. Michigan is 5th offensively, 1st defensively. Arizona 4th offensively, 2nd defensively. Illinois 1st offensively, 20th on defense. So should be a lot of fun once we get to the Final Four. All right, coming up in 15 minutes, we're going to dive into the junk drawer. But next, speaking of the Final Four, how UConn got here is something I'm not sure I would ever live down as a fan. We'll talk about that next here on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends out at Ted Drew's off of Chippewa, open for its 97th season. That St. Louis tradition that has been around since 1929. I drove past it after we were out at Ballpark Village on Thursday for opening day and just saw lines of people. Must have been getting ready for that Cardinals game over at Ted Drew's. It's been a generational thing. 4 generations of families have been running this Ted Drew's business off of quality service, and they love for St. Louis, and it's that delicious frozen custard, rich, creamy texture, perfected recipe with premium ingredients that you can get whatever flavors you want, or just check out their specialty flavors in honor of a potential playoff push. How about the Blue Note, a vanilla custard mixed with a blend of fresh blueberries, smooth lemon cream, and graham crackers, served as a concrete or a sundae. While you're out there, make sure you walk across the parking lot and check out their gift shop and historical museum, where you could see tons of Ted Drew's St. Louis Route 66 memorabilia. Plus, they got Ted Drew's souvenirs, stylish apparel, and Ted Drew's gift cards. So get on out there, start those traditions on the 97th season of Ted Drew's famous frozen custard. Real custard, real tradition. Ted Drew's, it's St. Louis.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Over the weekend, the Cardinals took 2 of 3 from the Tampa Bay Rays. They start a 3-game set at home tonight against the New York Mets. 6:45 will be first pitch. Clay Holmes will get the start for the Mets. Kyle Leahy will make the start for St. Louis. Blues will be back in action as well as they'll be taking on the San Jose Sharks out in California. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 8 o'clock with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 9 o'clock with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
Get it into Boozer, back for Saar, ahead, Boozer, that ball deflected and stolen by Mullins. Caravan, 2 seconds, Mullins tosses it up. It's good! With .3, UConn goes in front.
I don't know how you get over that as a Duke fan. I don't know what you do.
Yeah, they've lived a roller coaster this tournament, nearly losing to Siena, and then the next round they had a nail biter. Honestly, they never looked like the dominant powerhouse that they thought we were.
Yesterday, for the first half, they looked like that.
Yep.
Yesterday, during that first half, I went, all right, they've finally awoken.
Because I didn't see them in the first half.
I was
It was
sitting
the
in the
first time in the tournament that they looked the part of a dominant team that we all thought they were coming into this
I saw
tournament.
that going, oh, God, that's the team Illinois is going to play in the Final Four. Nope. Then they reverted back to themselves in the second half.
It's so funny because I was at the park with my girls, so I got home at the start of the second half, so I only saw the second half, and then it was like, oh, my gosh. Like, I didn't feel the same way you guys did in the first half.
It's hard to fathom when you have that kind of a collapse because they were up by 15 at halftime, Alex. 15 points. I mean, that game should have been over to the point where I saw this yesterday on social media. Number 1 seeds that are up by 15 or more points at halftime were 134-0.
Oh, my gosh.
In the history of the tournament. Again, Duke was up by 15. They became the first out of the 135 teams to do this to lose. And the way that they lost, dude, all they had to do was hold on to the basketball. They didn't have to make that pass. There was no defensive 10 seconds because it was less than 10 seconds.
7 on the clock or whatever it was.
So all you had to do, literally, if they had stood there and looked around to see if there's another pass, like faked a pass up the court, that would be it. And then they're probably either getting fouled and going up and make free throws in the game, or the game's just over. If they decide to play it out, which there would have been no reason for UConn to do that, I couldn't believe it. I was in shock as that pass was made, and then you see UConn go up the court the other direction. I think Hurley was trying to get a timeout to get something set up to get an open look, and then
Glad he didn't.
They pull up from the logo. It was a bad shot, and Mullins has been terrible from 3 lately. I think he's like a 15% three-point shooter on the season, and he's the one that ends up making the biggest shot of this tournament and one of the biggest shots in recent memory for an NCAA tournament. The whole thing was exhausting.
Yeah, I did.
And I have no idea, if you're a Duke fan, how you get over that one. That is one that will live with Shire for years. Duke fans will not soon forget that until he wins a title with them. Because right now he's got some of the worst losses in tournament history on his resume in the last 2 tournaments. The way they've lost the last 2 times with their complete collapses, it's hard to fathom.
Yeah, Duke's kind of in that choke territory that Illinois has been in for so long.
Well,
I mean, let's be honest, but I mean, that's where Duke puts themselves. And I couldn't believe it. And I also believed it, if that makes any sense. Because again, they may have been dominant in that first half, but every single game they played in that tournament, it was just I don't know. I just don't feel like this team is one of the best that we have talked about. Every game I've watched Michigan and Arizona play, I'm like, oh yeah, there's a reason they're number 1 seed. There's a reason that's a top team. And Duke, every round, it was they're good, but I don't think they're that good. And then, of course, you get beat off of a miraculous shot. It's not like they got out-muscled or out-managed. They just got beat off of a hell of a shot. But those are the ones that sting the worst in the tournament.
Dude, last year, against Houston.
See, what they blew in that one? I know they were up decent amount in that one, too.
They were up 67-61 with 30 seconds to go.
And they lost by
Oh, yeah, that's right, because I turned that
70-67.
game off thinking it was over.
Yeah, they didn't score another point the rest of the way, right? They lost 70-67. Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah. So over the last 2 years, that's the way they've been booted out of the tournament.
The ghost of Mike Krzyzewski just continues to haunt them.
Yeah, the only way... Well, he's not dead.
Well, I know, but he's dead to them. He's not around.
The only way you do get over that is by winning a title. But, man,
It's brutal.
talk about finding a better team than what he had this year. I mean, this was the best team he's had. He's
They were
constructed.
amazing. And Cam Boozer was spectacular yesterday.
He's what, a projected top 3 pick?
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't just, I mean, I know it's Duke. You continue to find them, but it's rare.
This was an all-time great recruiting class, and they had one of the 3 guys that really, really matters at the NBA level right now. Like, there are 3 guys, and then there's kind of a bunch of other dudes that are really good, but the 3 at the top are unbelievable. None of them made it to the Final Four. Not a single one of them.
Beauty of basketball.
And can I put my Mizzou hat on here for a second?
This is why you think Mizzou can be a Final Four team next year?
This is my fear of Mizzou going into next year. Not that like they have to make it to the Final Four or it's a disaster, but Duke not only had that guy, they not only had Cam Boozer, they also had an unbelievable team around him. They couldn't even get to the Final Four. Mizzou's got Jason Crow Jr. who's coming in, who's supposed to be amazing. They better be good in the portal, because what's different about Illinois and Michigan and Arizona compared to the Duke team that you just saw, they also hit in the portal. And so they were able to surround that freshman talent with what you need in order to get over the top. And then they had a very clear identity. Duke also got a little unlucky. They had some issues with injuries and all these different things. But yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard. Even when you get it right as a coach and you get all of the right players and you have a scheme in place that you're really good and happy with, you could still be up by 15 at halftime as the number 1 seed against a team that all year long, I think we said it going into this tournament, the team that I was most confused by in that region was UConn, because it's not your typical UConn team. And they still found a way to come out victorious. So here's my question to you on UConn. Is Danny Hurley just like the new version of Tom Izzo? Where you get to March and it doesn't matter what his team is. They're just going to find a way to win every single year. Like last year they had a bad year. They lost to the eventual national champions.
By 2, right?
Yeah. I mean, they took them up against the ropes, and if they win that game, who knows where UConn gets as a potential 3-peat there. And now they're back to the Final Four 3 out of the last 4 years. 2 of those years they were able to win it all. Is Hurley the guy that you trust more than anybody right now, Alex?
It's hard not to when he's pulling off wins like this consistently versus like all of these other guys. Like you look at programs and you look at coaches. I mean, Tom Izzo is a great example for Michigan State. He's always viewed as a Hall of Fame caliber coach. When was the last time you felt good about Tom Izzo deep into a playoff format?
Oh, I still feel like every year Michigan State's going to get there.
I feel like they're going to lose at some point, though, and kind of kill that hype. Patino, another one, where it was no matter the deeper you get into it, it's like, yeah, but can they get it done? UConn seems to always find themselves in this position, at least over the last 5 to 6 years. So,
he's doing it better than Izzo.
Izzo never won what? Well, he definitely never won back-to-back. But
so Izzo at the beginning of his career went Final Four championship, Final Four, and then lost in the first round, Elite Eight. So that was his big run at the beginning of his tenure at Michigan State. But then it continued from there, made it to another Final Four in 2005, made it to the Sweet 16 in 2008, Final Four in 2010, Elite Eight in 2014, Final Four in 2015, Final Four in 2019. Like, it just, every year, he found a way to get it done. And even when he doesn't, and even when he didn't, I went in believing they were going to. And that's where I think UConn is right now, where they've just earned the benefit of the doubt. And I was stupid this year. And
you didn't have him in the Final Four?
I picked Michigan State over them because of Izzo.
I did too.
I trusted Izzo to get it done. And what I didn't correct for is that Dan Hurley is Izzo. Yeah. He's just the new version of this.
Yeah. I thought Todd Golden was going to be another one of these guys, so I had Florida beating UConn in the Elite Eight to get to the Final Four. Sure. So I overcorrected on the other way. I thought Todd Golden was building this great program at Florida, and then he couldn't get past freaking Iowa.
It was really that was one of those games that, like, you get to this time of the tournament We don't have any Cinderellas left. That's why you still watch, because it's just that good.
You get
man.
best on best, and you get big moments. That's why it's like I'll enjoy the first round of potential Cinderellas. I'll enjoy best on best the rest of the tournament.
This tournament has delivered in every way possible. Couldn't have asked for anything more than this. All right, alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. In about 10 minutes, we're going to talk to Chris Pronger, Hockey Hall of Famer, but next, quick junk drawer here on 101 ESPN. All right, we'll have Chris Pronger coming up here in just a little bit. Alex, before we get to him, though, I want to say a couple of words about the Puck Cancer event, which was Friday night. I was able to get out there, took the sun. Incredible. First of all, met many of you guys out there. Saw a few guys that text in on the text line. Always great to be able to meet so many of our listeners. But the event itself was incredible. Hell of a lot of fun. Raised a ton of money for a good cause. And I want to give full credit to the St. Louis Blues. Every single player was on the ice beforehand. As Kelly Chase walked onto the ice, he did so with the Blues behind him. Like, literally, the roster. Like, Jordan Binnington was out there. Robert Thomas was out there. All of the players. Colton Parayko was right behind him.
I was told every single Blues player was at that game.
That's amazing. That is the kind of thing where maybe it sounds easy for all of us, right? You got to go. You got to do this. You got to support Kelly Chase. They don't have to. They chose to do so. And it is something that when we talked to Biz the other day on the show, he mentioned how the alumni base is so significant here in St. Louis, and it's something that is very unique. That's part of why. Because the Blues continue to be involved with stuff like that. It also speaks to just how important of a figure Kelly Chase is in the community. Yeah. But I was blown away, man. The whole event was incredible. It was a ton of fun. Being able to watch Jamie out there in his element was really cool as well. I'm sure he'll have some stories today. But I just wanted to give full credit to the Blues for what they were able to do with that event. It was really, really well done.
Yeah, I mean, they do that phenomenally. I got to go last year. I didn't get to go this year. I wanted to so bad, but I got to watch those videos. And, I got choked up at home when I watched the video of Chaser out there talking because, of course, he's got his arm in a sling because he hurt his shoulder and he's losing in his eyesight. I mean, this battle he is going through is tearing him to pieces. I'm so lucky that I got to work with him for a couple of years when I was the booth assistant for the Blues. But he's just a guy that, much like Bobby Plager was, like, no Blue plays for the team without getting to be around Kelly Chase. And it's not because it's mandatory. It's just that's who Chaser is. He always does. Brett Hull was joking about it, that he does too much. Like, he needs to stop because he's torn to pieces. But he said you can tell him he does too much, but it doesn't matter because Chaser is always about the other people. And every one of those players knows that. That's the DNA. That's the culture. That's when we had Backus on last week where he talked about a culture erosion to where it feels like, some of the guys may have lost that. It was great to see that from that entire roster. And hopefully they can instill that culture that Kelly Chase has just carried over for so many decades for this Blues organization.
It was really cool. Glad I was able to get out there. If they do anything like this again in the future, highly recommend checking it out if you have the opportunity to do so. All right, he's Alex. That's T-Bone. I'm BK. Chris Pronger, Hockey Hall of Famer, joins us next here on 101 ESPN.
Along with Brandon Kiley and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Alex Ferrario as we head to the Callier and Thompson hotline now to welcome in the Hockey Hall of Famer. You see him on the Blues broadcasts throughout the season. He is Chris Pronger. He's got a new book coming out called Earned. That's right.
Baby.
Called Earned. On April 14th, it's going to be released, and it's a really cool event we're going to talk with him about in a little bit because it's a book launch event out at Stiefel to where if you purchase the tickets for this, you'll get the tickets to the book launch event from 6:30 to 7:30, and then you'll go over to the Blues game when they take on the Penguins that night at 8:30. So we're going to talk with him all about that here. And Chris, first off, man, it's great to catch up with you. How are you?
Awesome. Great to be with you guys.
You're everywhere right now, man. I think, you're in Denver because you're on the Amazon hockey game this evening in Canada, and then, man, you're like in every city, it feels like, right now on these tours.
I have been traveling quite a bit the last couple months. It's been a whirlwind, but all for the game of hockey and this book.
Absolutely. Well, I can't wait to get my hands on this one, Chris, and we'll talk about it in a bit. But I think we have to lead off with this Blues team because you've been watching them all season long. You've been on the television side of things, Chris. Are they going to pull this off again to us?
I'll tell you what, they looked awfully strong. 4 points back with 2 games in hand. They got to take care of their own business, and that's the nice part is that it is certainly within their grasp, and ultimately they can take care of their own business and get in.
Prongs, what's changed when you watch this team? What's different about them since the Olympic break?
I think there's a couple things. One, they're healthy. That's a big component. They didn't have a full team for the bulk of the season. The goaltending, the woes of the first couple months, their goaltending has been outstanding. Joel Hofer has been a lights out, and I think when you look at his statistics from American Thanksgiving on, I think he's number 1 in the league in a handful of categories, or top 3. And Jordan Binnington's numbers have improved as well post-Olympics. So from that perspective, they're playing a much more competitive style in zone, defensive zone. Their defensemen are doing a great job of sealing the opposition and creating turnovers quickly so they can get on the transition game and get pucks up. And then their forwards, as I just talked about, are healthier. You got a healthy Dylan Holloway, a healthy Jimmy Snuggerud, Robert Thomas, and with the Braden Shen trade and the Justin Falk trade, they've been able to kind of bring in some of these young guys that have been in the minors to give them a look, and they're playing with a lot more pace. And they're also feeling very confident. You can see the manner with which they're entering the zone. They're making, they're looking for plays. They're not just looking to get the red line and dump it and get it out of their hands. They're confident in the fact that they can skate it in, create odd man rushes, 3-on-2s, 4-on-3s, and their defense is supporting the attack, and they seem to be firing on all cylinders.
I heard Jimmy Snuggerud talk a little bit about that after the game the other day, where he said he was playing what he called an immature game, where he'd have his head down too often and he wasn't making plays through the neutral zone. Prongs, when you watch young players, can you describe for us, as somebody that has so much experience in the game, what that transition can be like for a young player where they do start making those plays through the neutral zone? What does that open up for a guy like Jimmy Snuggerud?
Yeah, I think a lot of times early on in your career, you don't want to make mistakes. You don't want to, you're that fear of failure, if you will. And funny enough, I talk about it a lot in the book. But I think as they get past that fear and they get past that sense of struggling or not making right plays, indecision, if you will, they start just trusting their instincts, trusting their ability to play at a high level. And they're all highly skilled players, and I think they're letting their skill set take over, their hockey sense and IQ, and that goes back to what I talk about. Where since the break, just watching them play the last few games, they've really done a nice job of putting pressure on the opposition's defense, both at the blue line and then in zone, and they're supporting the puck for one another. They're coming across and creating a lot of 2-on-1 opportunities, which is what hockey's all about.
Chris, we talked about this, I think, on this show back in October or November when the Blues came out of the gate sluggish, and you had talked a lot about how you can't carry over what you did in last season to a new season. You have to find a way to recreate that. And I think when Blues fans see what they're doing now, they're like, oh, geez, we're going to do this again, and it's going to struggle in October next year. How do you find what they have found and then keep it consistently for the following season and on?
Well, that's the trick, and that's the $64 million question. And it's a mindset, it's a structure, it's an ability to come out of the gate and an understanding of what the expectations are, what the pressure points are, and then go out and execute, take action. And I think health has played a part in it. And I think getting off the right foot, I think not relying on what we've done, and it's more what we're going to do and how we're going to take hold of our season right from the jump, right from game one, and really kind of impose your will on the opposition and have a very good understanding as to the type of team you want to be, and then go out and showcase that.
Hockey Hall of Famer Chris Pronger joining us here on 101 ESPN. He's written a new book. You can check it out. It's called Earned. It will be released on April the 14th. Book launch event is coming up at Stiefel. Tickets to that event and the Blues game can be found right now at his website. Prongs, last Blues question that I had for you before we asked you about that book and the event that's coming up. I did want to ask you about Theo Lindstein, because as a former defenseman, I wanted to get your insight into a guy that's getting so much experience right now, playing in that pair with Colton Parayko. What has stood out to you about Lindstein and the early going with his game?
I think his awareness, his ability to make plays under duress. That's not easy for a young defenseman to come into the league and be put into that type of pressure cooker. And, you can see his ability to process and think the game. And he's a very mobile, elusive defender. And that, he's got a little bit of grip to his game too. He defends hard. So he puts the opponent on their back heels very quickly. And I think that gives him an opportunity to get to loose pucks, win those board battles and those one-on-one puck battles, and then get into the transition game where he excels.
All right, BK lied because I've got two more hockey questions before we talk books, Chris.
It was my last one. Yeah, I told the truth on mine.
I'm sorry, Chris. I'm sorry. I do want to ask about another defenseman, because if only they'd listened to the Hockey Hall of Famer about a guy like Logan Mailloux. We talked about this in the early portion of the season of how, look, Logan's going to go through the trials and tribulations of being a defenseman. It's not an easy task to do. But what stands out to you in terms of the turnaround that he has had from the early portion of the season to where he's at now?
Yeah, I think people just have to realize it takes time. You have to be patient with young defensemen, especially somebody who has not played a whole lot of hockey. Going back to his junior days, he missed a number of games due to COVID and all the rest of that, the stuff that surrounded him. And you need game action. You have to get the reps. And it's one thing to be in practice and things of that nature, but you need in-game experience and an understanding of what to expect on a night-to-night basis. And now that he's, 3/4 is, 70 games into the season, he's got a very good ideology of what to expect on a night-to-night basis. And now he's a little more comfortable. He got sent down. He kind of found his game again, gets called back up, understands what the expectations look like. He understands the pressure cooker that he was in. And now he can kind of relax a little bit, play his game, understand how he's going to be most effective to help the Blues win. And then hopefully that all kind of comes together. And as he kind of matures and develops, he's got some talent. He's highly competitive, defends, he's very mobile for a guy with that kind of grit. And he's got a little offensive upside to his game. So it'll be interesting to see how he continues to develop and evolve his game.
All right, no lies here. This is the final hockey question, and then we're talking the book and the event, Chris. But I am curious from a defenseman's perspective, what makes that Thomas Holloway Snuggerud line so difficult to defend?
I think the pace and the speed with which they can attack the defense and the pressure that they put on from a forechecking perspective, how dogged they've been on the forecheck. Holloway plays with a little physical edge to his game. Snuggerud's in quick on the attack. They all three have great sticks and great hockey sense, so they work very well together. And then all three of them can shoot the puck. Thomas is more of a distributor, but Holloway's got a quick release, as does Snuggerud. So you have a lot of opportunity to score goals with Robert Thomas in the pivot. So from that perspective, it's and again, all three are healthy. So they're not, playing 75, 80%. They're not kind of in and out of the lineup. They've now had a number of games together to work together and build that chemistry and that bond.
All right, Chris, so let's talk about this book. It's called Earned. It's out on April 14th. Just take me through the process of what led you to wanting to write this book.
Yeah, it's been an interesting process, to say the least. And I think over the years I've been asked to write a book, the last 10, 12 years since I retired, and kicked tires a few times on it, and just the timing wasn't right. And now, I've been building out this speaking platform for the past couple of years. And as I've gone and done some speeches and done some things, talking to people about a lot of the life lessons that I've now incorporated into this book. And it's a playbook of sorts for, how to become a difference maker in your own right. And it's part memoir, part life lessons gleaned from not only my hockey career, but post-playing career.
And that's a part that I've loved seeing the videos that pop up with this one, Chris, on all the speaking tours that you've been on. Like, yes, the book is about your hockey career, but it's also the mental side of things, because for somebody like yourself, there were a lot of mental hurdles that you had to go through to get to where you got to.
Yes, there was a lot of adversity, a lot of trials and tribulations, a lot of growing up, a lot of maturing. And I talk about that in the book. And a lot of the, one of the things that I didn't want to do with the book was just write a hockey book and have a bunch of stories that you can Google. A lot of the stories that are in this book are just from the Rolodex up in my head. They're not stories that have been told or talked about before. And so they're very intentional in how they're presented in the book and how they can help the various readers and people that are engaged in reading the book and wanting to, level up and live a better life and look at what kind of impact we can all make on one another and the legacy that we want to leave, down the line. I think for me, it was, I'd already built out my legacy within the game of hockey, and I didn't want that to be it. I wanted to continue to grow and evolve and develop the next level or the next layer, if you will. And the book is a part of that.
I was reading that you have a tool in here called the 30-Day Standards Challenge. Chris, can you tell us, I don't want you to give away everything because people got to get the book for that, obviously, but explain that to us a little bit to give us some insight into what people will get with that 30-Day Standards Challenge whenever they do get this book.
Yeah, it's part of the Difference Makers Code. And it's setting standards, it's leaning into adversity, and then it's taking ownership. And a lot of what I talk about in the book is being accountable and taking ownership and stock in what you're doing, the decisions we make, betting on yourself. And so, the 30 Days Standards Challenge is really just trying to set yourself up for success and trying to slowly impart some of these standards into your life. And then hopefully by day 30, you've now seen some growth and development, and now you can take it to the next level and really implement them full time.
He's Chris Pronger, the Hockey Hall of Famer, author of his new book called Earned. It'll be released coming up on April the 14th. And if you would like to be at the event at Stiefel, tickets to that are available right now. And Blues game will be right afterwards. It's all available for you on Chris Pronger's website.
And by the way, think about that game. That very well could be a massive game with playoff implications, both for St. Louis and Pittsburgh. So not only is it going to be a great book event where I'll be speaking and signing copies of the book, but also the game itself for both teams. It's going to be, there's a lot at stake. So that'll be a fun game to be at.
So can we expect like a Chris Pronger, like pep talk, like hype speech before the game at that event?
We'll do, for those that are there, we're going to get a hype speech for sure. We'll get everybody fired up. And also, people can go to chrispronger.com and go to my events page. There's a bunch of other book signings and events on there in the local St. Louis area.
Make sure you get your hands on this. The book's out on April 14th. Check his website, chrispronger.com, to find those book signing events. It's so cool that Chris is out there doing this. Man, Chris, keep up the great work. I love seeing you everywhere right now in the hockey world. I love the breakdown on Blues hockey. So we appreciate your time, and we'll see you on April 14th.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Take care.
Got it. That's Chris Pronger joining us here on 101 ESPN. Of course, the Hockey Hall of Famer. ChrisPronger.com is where you can go to get that book right now and to get your tickets to that event coming up on April the 14th. Alex, the Blues game on April 14th. Here's my question for you. Is it going to have playoff implications for the Blues?
I think so. I believe so. Because even if the Blues stumble, I think other teams are going to stumble around them. I don't think they're going to fall out of this to where it's like, oh, yeah, it's done for. Like if they lose tonight against San Jose, there's a real shot that Nashville loses the next game. There's a real shot that the Kings lose on Wednesday against the Blues. Like you're in the games in hand conversation. You've got the tiebreaker, which I know BK loves, that regulation wins tiebreaker. Like even if
that's the one that's helping the Blues the most right now. Because right now they have that tiebreaker over every other team in the wild card race.
Multiple games in that too. Like they're 27, and the next closest is 25, held by Nashville, Seattle, and Winnipeg. So
and they've played fewer games than most of these other teams.
The way that they fall out of it, and April 14th isn't an impactful game, is as if this team goes into a 2 or 3 game skid. And that has not happened since the Olympic break.
Yeah. How many games do you think you can lose realistically the rest of the way?
Regulation, I'd say
2?
2.
At most?
Yeah. I'd say 2 is
third loss in regulation, you're probably done.
Yeah.
Because you've got, 10 games remaining?
Yeah. If you lose 3 in regulation, I mean, that puts you at 14 points at the most, and that's 87. And I think 88 is going to be the magic number to get in. So I think you can only lose 2. Now, you can lose 1 in overtime or a shootout. 1, because you've got that luxury of the regulation wins tiebreaker and get that extra point. But you have to win, have to win 7 games in the final 10.
The craziest thing to me right now, technically, by points percentage, Seattle is actually the team that's in the playoffs. And they are 2 points ahead of you.
Yeah. Well, and the LA Kings are too, because the Kings have the same point percentage.
They're a little less than Seattle. Like today, by points percentage, Seattle is, technically speaking, the one that is in.
Yeah.
They would be the team that would get that final spot because they've played 2 fewer games than the Nashville Predators and have 2 fewer points. And again, the Blues are 2 points back of the Seattle Kraken, having played the same number of games as Seattle.
This point percentage clip,
dude.
Like you just go off of the final 8 games for Nashville, and if they played it at a 520 clip, it would put them at 87 points. So for them to get above that, they'd have to play above what they've played in terms of their point percentage. The same can be said for the Kings, Kraken, Jets, and Sharks. And the Blues have been playing 800 point percentage hockey since the Olympic break. So
they just got to continue.
Yeah, you have to win 7 of your final 10 games without question, and then you got to hope that one of those losses or 2 of those losses are in overtime or a shootout.
He's Alex. That's T-Bone. I'm BK.
This week,
BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. If you guys missed any of our conversation with Chris Pronger or any of the show from today, check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. That's all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
That 101 ESPN app, free to download, super easy to use. It is sponsored by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. Coming up in about 10 minutes, want to talk about Dylan Holloway. He's going on another heater. What does this mean for his contract in the offseason, Alex? We'll get into that here in just a little bit. But the Cardinals had 2 different starts over the weekend that could not have been more different. We'll discuss them both next here on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends out at Classic Air Care. That spring season, that spring weather is officially here. And what that means is, one day you're going to have your heater on. The next day you're going to have your air conditioner on. And then that third day you'll probably just turn it off altogether and open up the windows, which means a lot of work, a lot of extra work for your HVAC system. So this is the time of the year that you want to get it checked out. You want to make sure it's clean. You want to make sure that the filter is fresh, and it's going to be set up to take you through the hot summer. And that's where Classic Air Care comes into play. It's a company that I trust to come into my home, which is very important when you have 3 little ones, is making sure that you've got a company that you trust when they come in, but also is honest, is knowledgeable about your HVAC system. And I've been using them since 2016. So I've had them check out older units that I've had in my first home. The one we live in now, we bought it when it was a 25-year-old unit, and it was able to get us an extra 4 years. So call Classic Air Care today. They've got a maintenance agreement. Twice a year, they come out, they check it, clean it, fine-tune it, make sure it's good to go. And then if there's issues that pop up, you get priority scheduling. You get technicians that have been doing this for 30-plus years. Call them and schedule today. That's Classic Air Care and online at classicaircare.com.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. It was a weird weekend for the Cardinals starters, Alex.
What do you mean?
So, on Saturday,
no hitter.
You had a no-hitter through 6 innings for Michael McGreevy. Now, he was throwing 90 miles an hour. His velocity, he says it's no worries for him. I have concerns. I don't love the fact that he's throwing 90 miles an hour.
3 of his hits were to the wall, too.
I find it wildly impressive that he was able to have as much success as he did, despite the velocity. But there is the despite the velocity part of it that you have to take into account. So that's one side of things. The other side of things was Dustin May, who every time I watch him, I'm like, man, that stuff looks good. Now, sometimes he throws it right down the middle. That ain't great. The location is a bit problematic, but the stuff is still pretty darn good. But he got absolutely clobbered in that game against the Tampa Bay Rays. Could not have been 2 more different starts. One, throwing junk, but gets through 6 with no hits. The other, throwing heat the entire game, but only gets through 4 because he gave up 10 hits, a walk, and 6 earned runs. What did you make of the Cardinals starters over the weekend, Alex?
I think this is what our life is going to be like as Cardinals fans all season long, to where one day it's going to look great, and then the next day you're like, wait, what the hell just happened? This is the part that I wasn't sold on. I wasn't really sold on the offense being good, but I wasn't sold on the pitching that was just going to go out there and just consistently kind of follow a line. I felt like it was going to be a lot of ups and a lot of downs. Like, I'm not taking anything away from McGreevy because it was really cool to see a no-hitter for that long, but there were like 3 plays at the warning track and 1 right at the wall to where it was like, oh, okay, he's getting hit, but he's still getting the outs, which is all that matters. The Dustin May one, I got to imagine there were some jitters for your first Cardinals game, but like you guys pointed out, like the fact that he's just putting it right down the middle makes you a little concerned. I just think the pitching over this weekend was a picture of what this season is going to be. You're going to have the ultimate high for a series where it's like, oh, okay. And then you're going to have the ultimate low where it's like, oh, yeah, these guys aren't that good.
Yeah, my intrusive thoughts were very loud in my head through both those starts over the weekend, because I agree with what you guys are saying on McGreevy. I don't think he can continue to get away with this throwing 90. Now, maybe he can, because if you look at what he was throwing, he threw literally everything but the kitchen sink up there to home plate, because he was mixing and matching with 7 different pitches, and it turns out he doesn't even actually have a sinker. What that is some kind of other changeup that he's throwing up there. So maybe he can continue to keep guys off balance. I would bet against it, though. I mean, you saw how quickly it can go for a guy that was a pitch-to-contact / control artist in Adam Wainwright late in his career. You almost have to have pinpoint control. And I don't know if McGreevy's going to continue to be able to do that throughout the season. May it looked a lot like what I saw last year with him from Boston / the LA Dodgers, where I would look at the stuff and his fastball is better this year because it's got more velo to it. But I would watch his outings and go, man, I don't understand how this guy's not getting outs. You know, you look at the sweeper, you look at the fastball, you go, wow, this stuff looks impressive. And then you look at the box score and go, damn, 600 runs allowed? That's not impressive at all. So the intrusive thoughts were definitely in my head through the weekend for those guys' starts. There's nothing to really be concerned about because it is just one start. Ish happens. You know, we can reevaluate by the end of the month, by the end of 2 months. But for Dustin May, it looked a lot like his old stuff. Just the stuff was a little bit better. He just couldn't get outs because he's throwing too much in the heart of the plate.
Dirk Diggler's unit says May was tipping.
That's what Ricky was saying on the broadcast.
Maybe he was, and I certainly didn't pick up on it, but I never pick up on that stuff. He was throwing it down the middle. Like,
don't need to tip that.
Yeah, I don't. If he was, and then he threw it down the middle regularly, well, yeah, that's how you get absolutely pounded. That's something that I know for sure they check that stuff after games, and it might take a few starts if he was indeed tipping to be able to correct it completely. But if that's what was happening, that can be corrected. The location to me is actually a bigger concern because that's been an issue for him in the past, is the lack of command. He's always had good stuff. There have been times where the velo isn't quite where you want it to be because, you know, of all the injuries and then the esophagus thing, losing all of the weights. Like, there's other issues that have been compounded with that. But I do wonder, command-wise, is he going to be able to fix that? That's, to me, a real open-ended question. Whereas with McGreevy, like, I think he'll be able to get the velo back up. I don't have a ton of concerns with him. It's not like this has been an issue for him in the past. He normally throws 94. He's throwing 91 right now. Now, when will that happen? I don't know. But I think he's going to be able to ramp this up over the course of the season. So I'm not overly concerned about him, but I don't love the fact that he's throwing 91 right now. As long as he's healthy, whatever. It's all good.
Yeah, see, I find McGreevy kind of worrisome because I would think, like, once you get into the season, you really start to see him try and increase that velo. And I wouldn't doubt that he was trying to do it yesterday and couldn't. Now, I don't know that means he's injured. I don't know what to make of it. Maybe it's something with his mechanics is off, and that's what's leading to the velo being down. But until I actually see him get back up to that 94 where he was sitting last year, well, I feel comfortable because if this is something that sustains for the first half of the season, for example, he's not going to be able to continue to get away with that. You need that velocity to help him, especially him, as a pitch-to-contact guy, to try and get through his outings.
He's T-Bone. That's Alex. I'm BK. Scale of 1 to 10. Level of concern over the bullpen right now is?
8.
6.
I'm at about a 6, too. I think they'll be able to cycle through these guys. I'm not overly worried
I think
about
they
some
got
of them.
2 guys that I feel comfortable with when they come out of the bullpen.
JoJo, Riley O'Brien. I think Stanek's going to be fine. He's going to walk the world. We said this whenever he was signed. He does not have command. But I think his stuff is going to play up enough to where, you'll be annoyed by it. I hope he's not your closer all year long, but I think he's going to be fine. That's probably the 3 right now that I feel most comfortable with. Am I missing somebody?
I think that's it. Swансon's weird.
I think he'll be fine. That would be the
I'm
one.
not sure about that one.
No, I'm not going
he's
to
been
play
a little
that
wild, and he pitched to a lot of contact last year. Didn't miss a lot of bats. He feels like the one that's going to potentially be a real regression candidate. We'll see on Pusher. Soriano, I find interesting. I know he got in for an inning, and I don't think he even struck out anybody. He's the arm I'm maybe most intrigued with that's out of the bullpen right now. That's not your typical arm that we're used to.
They have some guys at AAA, too, that could potentially help them. So I'm not overly worried about it. I think they're going to be fine in that area. Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll get into the rewind. But next, Dylan Holloway going on another heater. What's it mean for his contract in the offseason? We'll talk about that next here on 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with the Sports Center update brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. Cardinals back in action tonight as they start a 3-game set with the New York Mets. Clay Holmes will be on the mound for the Mets, and Kyle Leahy will get the start for St. Louis. 6:45 will be first pitch tonight, and the Blues will be back in action later on tonight as well. We'll have pregame coverage as they take on the Sharks starting at 8 o'clock with Alex Ferrario. Puck drop at 9 o'clock with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. The Sports Center update was brought to you by Universal Windows Direct. You'll be saying, I love my windows.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Dylan Holloway's on a heater.
Oh, yeah,
Alex.
he is.
He's been one of the best players on the Blues since the Olympic break. Sound familiar? We've done this before.
Yeah, we did.
He's healthy, and so it's easy to explain, not excusing, explain his lack of production before the Olympic break compared to what we've seen from him after the Olympic break. And this is all setting up for an interesting offseason for Dylan Holloway. He is a restricted free agent this offseason, and the Blues are going to have a choice on what to do with his RFA status. I believe he still has like 3 more years before he officially would become an unrestricted free agent. They've got his rights for a while.
Yeah, he's not an unrestricted free agent until the 2029-2030 season.
So what do you think they will do with this? How will they view his close to the season and whether or not that's more representative of his game than what we saw before the Olympic break?
I think they're going to treat him the same way they treated Philip Broberg, to where they'll approach him with a 5 or 6 year contract extension, because that will buy out a couple of years of free agency, and he'll be 29, 30 years old prior to him being a unrestricted free agent. And I was just looking at this because I've made the comp to Kyle Connor in the past for him. Now, Connor, before he signed that first contract extension with the Winnipeg Jets, played 2 full seasons where he put up back-to-back 30-goal seasons, but had 57 and 66 points. Now, Holloway obviously is going to be below that in both categories, but a lot of it is due to injuries. I think if you look at his pace for an 82-game schedule, it would be right around that. When Kyle Connor signed that first contract extension, it was $7.1 million for 6 seasons, if I'm not mistaken. And that was about 8% of the cap. 8% of the cap next year is $8.3 million. I think the starting point you're talking about with Dylan Holloway is $8 million. And then the question is, will you sign 6 years? Will you sign more than 6 years? And I think the fewer years he's willing to sign, the lesser the AAV would be, if that makes sense. So, like, if he says, no, I'm only going to sign 4 to walk it up to free agency, all right, well, you're probably talking closer to like 6. But I have to imagine the Blues are looking at this as, look, we have to be cautious because of his injury history. But this is back-to-back years of us looking at what he is when he's healthy. And how often have we heard, BK, of everyone in the organization saying he's the hardest worker on this team? So I believe they're going to look at what he's done this season and approach him and to be like, look, 6 years, Philip Broberg just got it, talking like 8.5, and then you got him up until he's 30 years old, and you have him under contract pretty reasonably.
Have you seen what he's done in his last 15 games?
Yeah. The points aren't even as
you've looked at this.
The points aren't even as impressive as the plus minus.
In his last 15 games, the Blues are 11-2-2, no surprise. He has 9 goals, 19 points in those 15 games.
Wow.
And is a plus 21.
Best in the NHL, plus minus. He's been on the ice.
Plus 21 in the last 15 games for him.
He's been on the ice for 1 even strength goal against since the Olympic break.
He's been a plus or even in every single game.
That's absurd.
He has not taken a dash a single time since the Olympic break. I mean,
That's hard to do because even you would think, like, we've talked about this plus minus, why it's somewhat of a flawed stat. You'd think like there'd be some times where he just jumps on the ice and someone scores and he'd get knocked for it.
He's also eating 18 minutes and 55 seconds of ice time, which, like, for context, Kucherov is playing 20 minutes and 18 seconds for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So he's out there.
He's a legit top-line player.
Yeah, he is out there for 19 minutes. I told you in the office, I think you've got 2 outs right now of guys that are stars with the potential to get to that next level. One on Snuggerud because of that shot and the ability to make plays. But Dylan Holloway, it's not even the offense, which we know is elite from what you just said. It's the way he plays defensively. I mean, he is so good. That game against, I think it was either San Jose or Toronto, he stripped the puck from the player at the blue line and then created a 2-on-1 for Jimmy Snuggerud to score a goal. So this guy has the makings of a number one line winger, like on a playoff contending team, a number one line winger.
It's the one question is the injuries.
Yep.
Because you said it, when he's healthy, he's been great over the last 2 years for the most part. Even if you include the time where he clearly was not right on the ice earlier this season, over the last 2 years, if you go by per 82 games, he's averaging 28 goals, 65 points, and a plus 19 on the ice per season.
Yeah.
That's a legit top-line player. Now, not the number one guy on that top line, but that's a legitimate top-line player. You just need to get him available.
Yeah.
You need him to be somebody that is able to stay on the ice regularly, and that's where it does get a little bit questionable on what you decide to do with him this offseason. I would probably go to him and say, listen, we can't do, 7 or 8 by 8. We can't do that right now just because of the injury questions. But if you want to go long-term, we'll give you the commitment where you're guaranteed almost $50 million over the next 7 or 8 years. We just can't go up to the top of the market. And he may come back and say, well, then I can't do that just yet. And so you decide, we'll do this bridge deal with you. But I don't think they can give him, Pavlovic, Nevich, Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou money until he proves he can stay on the ice like Thomas, Kyrou, and Buch did.
It's kind of why I wonder if they do just agree to hey, let's go 1 year. I mean, you're going to be under our control. We're going to give you a bump and pay of what you've been making, but we want to see 82 games before. I don't think they do that because I think cost certainty is, look, we know this guy is going to work hard. It's not like he's having these fluke injuries. He had his hip flexor ripped off of his hip bone, and then the high ankle sprain that he got from practice where he was going hard. This is a guy that is going to give it all. It's just, you're right. Can we go 8 years? I mean, 8 by 8 to me is a steal because if he stays healthy and you're paying him $8 million.
But it's a risk.
It's totally a risk.
Because if he gets hurt and he's not the same guy after that injury,
then you're putting yourself in a tough spot.
You've got a spot where you're paying $8 million to somebody that you might only be able to count on for 50 games a year. Is this a Jaden Schwartz situation?
Yeah.
But you're paying him more than what you did with Jaden Schwartz.
I mean, it's a steal if you get there, but man, if you can, I think to me, 6 years is the sweet spot. You get him to 30, you pay him handsomely, but the price for what he would be doing if he's healthy is 10 plus. And you look at it and say, we got 6 years, and if you're great in 6 years, then you're going to get paid $12 million AAV.
Splashback Do said, that's odd, Alex. Isn't it sometimes the case that the longer the contracts, you bump the AAV down? That is correct. Yeah. Normally, in free agency, for example, if you give a guy a longer contract, and the Blues have done this in the past with many of their players, extension or otherwise, you bump the AAV down. It's a little different, typically at least, with RFA status because you're buying out their free agency years. So if Dylan Holloway decides to sign a shorter term deal, he would take himself up to free agency, where then at the age of 27, I think it is, 28, he would be able to go market himself to everybody, to the highest bidder possible at the age of 27, 28 years old. Now, if he stays healthy and plays the way that he has, he's going to get paid in a huge way, and the cap continues to spike every year. So I know this sounds crazy today, but at that point, you might be talking about a $10 to $12 million a year player, given where the cap's at and what that means as a percentage of the cap. So if you're the Blues, you are taking on more of the risk if you go longer term. And so you give him a bigger dollar figure today. But for Holloway, the reason why you make it work for him would be, we're giving you a bigger dollar figure to buy out those free agency years, but you're getting it guaranteed right now, as opposed to having to risk it over the next few years as somebody that's already dealt with injury, and you just don't know if that pot is there with all of the gold at the end of the tunnel.
And that's the security for him, too. I mean, he knows that he's been injured. It's not just these last 2 seasons with the Blues. He was injured his first 2 seasons with Edmonton. From the AHL and NHL, he couldn't play more than 50 games. So if you're him, you're probably looking at a security for 4 or 5 years rather than go 1 or 2 years and, have a massive injury and it affect your long-term outlook.
He's Alex. That's T-Bone. I'm BK. Blues back in action this evening against the San Jose Sharks. Pregame starts at 8. It's a late one. Puck drop right here on your home of the Blues. 101 ESPN tonight
meaningful
at 9 o'clock. Coming up next, we'll hit the rewind here on 101 ESPN. It's underdog season, baby, whether it's college basketball, maybe Major League Baseball, hockey. You've got it all available for you right now over on the Underdog app. If you haven't downloaded it yet, what are you waiting for? Use our promo code BKO. Alex will tell you more about that here in just a little bit. I've got your play for tonight's Cardinals game. I've got Juan Soto higher than 1.5 total bases. I've got Victor Scott. How about this? Higher than 0.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. I just need him to get either a hit, a run, or an RBI. Put all that together, along with Kyle Leahy, lower than 3.5 strikeouts. Sorry, guys. And it is about 5.5 to 1 with my 30% profit boost on Underdog.
And I got your play for Blues tonight. I'm going Jake Neighbors, higher on points. I think he gets a goal tonight. Jimmy Snuggerud, higher shots on goal, and higher on Askarov's saves for the San Jose Sharks. Plus a 30% profit boost. Why not? That's what you need to do. Download the Underdog app today. Use promo code BKO and score $50 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code BKO. Underdog, make plays, win money. Must be 18 plus and present in Missouri. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-MY-RESET or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
If you guys missed anything from the show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app. That is sponsored by
Shea Fedor Company.
If you missed it, you probably missed T-Bone, who was offered an opportunity to go see his Illini in the Final Four in Indianapolis.
Like a loser.
At a suite. He hasn't turned it down officially, at least not that I'm aware of.
He did in his head. I can read body language. He turned it down already.
I don't know, man. I've got this right here.
I can read you like a book.
No, you can't.
I'll get it to you via Ticketmaster.
You know nothing about it.
I know all of you.
So it's still out there.
You and your 2 stress balls that you were squeezing the whole game.
We'll talk to T-Bone about that more throughout the week.
Sure.
T-Bone, your Illini heading to the Final Four. What was it like for you?
Oh, it was so exciting. It was very nerve-wracking, too. You know, when you're in this business, you know, you kind of have to put your fandom to the side. You know, I still would say I am a Cardinals fan and a Blues fan, but, you know, you have to be more even-tempered when you cover the teams for a living. Illinois is like the one team that okay, never mind, maybe not. Illinois is the one team for me still. Them and the Rams are the 2 that I still have as can truly be a fan. So to see them get there after Brad Underwood's been here and had some really good teams in the past that just haven't been able to get over the top, it was special. And in years past, BK's known this. There's guys that I don't like on the team.
Oh yeah,
looking at you, Coleman Hawkins.
He's back on board, by the way. He's celebrating.
I saw it, and I saw it and went, oh, this is kind of ruining it a little bit for me. But I like every player that's on this team. Each one of them does something that's just adds to what has become a special season. So it's been unbelievable. I can't wait for Saturday. It's going to be a nervous mess. I am going to be a nervous mess. I'm probably going to be texting you guys like crazy during the group chat, freaking out about just the little things.
As you're live in Indy.
But it's been
live and only.
It's been a hell of a run for this season for Illinois, and I'm so excited for what's ahead.
All right, Alex. Blues back in action this evening against the Sharks. How you feeling going into this one? It's a big game for the Blues.
It's massive. There's a little part of me, that intrusive thoughts that's like these are the games that they typically drop, the ones that are big, but they're a lesser opponent. But the way that this team's playing right now, it's like I don't really worry about the team in front of the goaltender because the goaltender has been so good. But to me, if you win the next 2, I personally believe you're in the driver's seat. Yes, you've got a tough schedule, but man, when you put yourself in the wild card spot, that's the confidence that exudes from a group that knows that they're playing some good hockey.
Cardinals continue tonight as well, taking on the New York Mets. Mets won 2 out of 3 against the Pirates over the weekend. However, they did need extra innings twice against them in order to come to that 2-1 record thus far. It is Kyle Leahy on the mound tonight. He begins his experiment as a starting pitcher for the Cardinals. Who you guys got? You got the Mets or the Cards tonight, Alex?
Mets.
I'm going Mets as well.
I'm going Mets as well. We are going to sweep it. We'll see if we are right. We will discuss that tomorrow. We'll break down the Blues. We'll break down the Cardinals. We'll talk to Derek Gould. We'll talk to Jeremy Rutherford. It's all here tomorrow from 11 to 2 on 101 ESPN. The Fast Lane is next here on 101 ESPN.